580 KIDO. So here we have it. The Canadians are fighting back. Let's see. I guess that's really it. The Canadians are fighting back. That's the big headline, if you will. And people are saying, how dare Donald Trump pick on the Canadians? Well, I kind of agree with the president when he's saying Canada wants to be the 51st state without paying. And, no ticky, no punchy, as we like to say around here. No ticky, no punchy. And the Canadians have had a great run. And now all of a sudden you have people going, oh, it's going to be bad and everything of that nature. But that's really what leadership comes down to. And we will see what leadership happens during the midterms. By the way, those of you keeping score last night, Lindsey Graham's sister did win. That's right. Lindsey Graham's sister did win. So it looks like Lindsey Graham will, his legacy will live on, if you will. One of the big stories, of course, that we have been following, and Fox News has been covering it, the death of country music icon, legend, Dolly Parton. And it's funny watching how people covered that last night. Of course, a lot of us grew up with 9 to 5. A lot of us grew up with a lot of things. But the idea of just a music icon passing. Here's our own Tanya J. Powers with the latest.
As tributes continue to pour in for beloved entertainer Dolly Parton, it's now known that she had dealt with cancer prior to her death on Tuesday. A representative for Parton said she had been admitted to the Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center in Nashville on Friday. Additional details about her illness were not given, and it's not clear when she received that diagnosis. Parton had been dealing with other known health issues in the last couple of years, including kidney stones and autoimmune and digestive issues, which caused her to postpone and ultimately cancel a planned Las Vegas residency last year. A little more than a week ago, she missed a scheduled appearance at her East Tennessee amusement park, Dollywood. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Well, you think about that and just what an amazing lady Dolly Parton was, and just how much she contributed. And always so friendly. And, just musically, remember we thought that she had passed, that she made fun of it in her own self-deprecating way. And it was just a tragedy that we've lost her. But at 80 years old, and COVID, everything else, the standard of living, the life expectancy went up and up and up and up. And then we had COVID, and we had this giant reset, if you will. And now here we have a lady that was getting ready to go to Vegas to do residency at 80 years old. And you think to yourself, what makes these people? What makes these people do these things? Again, people in their 80s, and there's nothing wrong with people in their 80s that, want to work and continue to work, but that is what they do. That is their life. That is their purpose for living. And even Don McLean, who I didn't know he was still alive, with American Pie, had this to say.
She held herself in high esteem. She valued herself, and that came through. That's why she was always litter perfect, and she always was looking gorgeous.
Yeah. And we'll have more tributes if you'd like to sound off about Dolly. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And, of course, even CNN last night saying before it was Whitney's song, it was Dolly's song. There we have it. Dolly Parton, always to be remembered, of course, for those of us that grew up in the 70s and 80s. What could beat the iconic song 9 to 5 that they actually made a movie on?
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living. Barely getting by, it's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive that I would deserve a back promotion. Want to move ahead.
Dude, how many people can really relate to that song, even to this day? And I know we've got the hippity hip, hippity bop, or whatever you want to call it, but my goodness gracious. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the incredible Dolly Parton. We shall always remember her as we start the day. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. As I take a look at other stories of the day, it is National Dog Day. That's right. You're going, Kevin Miller, are you sure about that? Yes. It is National Dog Day. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. But, how can you really start the day without just, again, the tributes to Dolly Parton? And, here you go again. I will always love you, 9 to 5.
Here you come again. Just when I'm about to make it work without you, you look into my eyes and lie those pretty lies. And pretty soon I'm wondering how I came to doubt you. All you gotta do is smile that smile, and there go all my defenses. Just leave it up to you, and in a little while.
And there we have it. More of your thoughts on Dolly in a minute. Want to remind you this portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Team Mazda and the Pre-Owned Superstore. Did you know they're doing something for Labor Day they've never done before? They're stretching their annual $5 car sale to 12 days and two, not one, but two big weekends. It starts this weekend when Team moves all their new and used vehicles to the parking lot at the old Kmart at Karcher and the Boulevard in Nampa. And there's a reason Team's $5 car sale is one of the biggest events of the year. Buy new or used with just $5 down. Now, you could be like a lot of people. You can go get a fast food meal, but can you get one for $5? But you can get a car for $5. That's right. And then make no payments for 5 months. Get a $2,000 Visa gift card with qualifying purchases. Also, get a $250 gas card. So you get $2,000 Visa gift card and a $250 gas card. Got a trade? During the $5 sale, Team will give you up to 130% of book value. That sentence kind of rolled. Let's try it again. Team will give you up to 130% of book value, and even worthless clunkers get a $2,000 minimum trade allowance. So buy a new Mazda plug-in hybrid, trade up to a better pre-owned car, get your first vehicle, or find a better truck for you for work or play. Whatever you need, $5 down gets it started. Don't miss Team's 12-day Labor Day $5 car sale. Now, that starts this weekend at Exit 33, Karcher and the Boulevard in Nampa. Look for the big white tent and 5-it at Team. And please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Again, good news if you're a fan of Donald Trump, President Trump. Lindsey Graham's sister won pretty convincingly last night in South Carolina, which if she had lost, it would have been quite a shocker.
Darlene Graham, the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate in South Carolina's special primary election, defeating her GOP challenger, Congressman Ralph Norman. She will face Democratic candidate Annie Andrews in November. Graham, still a political newcomer who was just recently appointed to finish out her late brother, Senator Lindsey Graham's term. She's backed by President Trump, who traveled to Myrtle Beach last week to rally supporters for her to have a full Senate term. The president telling folks Graham would fight for lower taxes, bigger paychecks, and the Second Amendment. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Oh, thank you, Kristen. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So what have we learned so far? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, America, the world remembrance an icon. And when you think of Dolly Parton, obviously her songs, her movie career, Kenny Rogers, Islands in the Stream, and their brilliant partnership. But again, if you've ever gone to Pigeon Forge, my parents just went there, Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And how many iconic stars could build their own type of amusement park for families? And obviously her legendary contributions, her continued contributions to country music. So again, we will miss her. I always just loved her humor, if you will. For those of you that love the doggies,
The saying, every dog has his day, is especially true today. It's National Dog Day, a chance for dog lovers to celebrate their canine's unconditional love and companionship. And to mark the occasion, there are bargains and freebies for you and your pet. PetSmart has deals on dog treats, toys, and chews. Some Starbucks, Dunkin', and Chick-fil-A locations are giving away free whipped cream pup cups. Dutch Bros Coffee has free dog bandanas with purchase, and the ASPCA has free pet safety packs at aspca.org. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
appreciate that, Tanya J. Powers. Okay, we've had the sizzle. Let's get to the steak, if you will. A recent article in the Idaho Capital Sun. Here's the headline. Twin Falls ICE flight observers record more than 500 detainees flown out of the Magic Valley Airport. That's right. Apparently, we are exporting a lot of people that are getting the boot. Who wrote this piece? Laura KIDO. Around midday on a recent day in Twin Falls, a small plane landed on the tarmac at the Magic Valley Airport. Outside the fence surrounded the airport runway area, a group of 5 people watched through telescopes and binoculars as 3 white vans drove up onto the tarmac. 20 men got out of the vans, boarded the plane, and law enforcement sent them on their way. And apparently we have people that are tracking these flights, tracking the ICE, tracking this. According to a flight tracker, the plane then traveled to King County and then who knows where. Back to the story here at 580 KIDO. Similar flights operated by ICE happen every Tuesday and Thursday at the Magic Valley Airport. So maybe you want to go to Twin Falls. Maybe you want to go see Shoshone, have dinner, have lunch at the wonderful historic Olive Garden there. See the magic of Twin Falls. And then you can go see the people being deported. So Shelley and Tim McDaniel, they live 30 minutes outside of Twin Falls. Apparently, they watch every flight, and they are official, unofficial observers. The McDaniels have recorded more than 500 detainees being flown out of the airports since the flights began in April. Now, here's what I wonder. Are we flying any out of Boise? Are we flying any people that are here illegally out? Now, that would be big news because obviously we have a media that has a pro-anti-ICE bias. An ICE spokesman told the Capital Sun air operations provide a network of air transportation to enforcement removal operations, ERO, and they've got 25 field offices to facilitate the movement of illegals within the United States. ICE is committed to the safety and welfare of those in custody and throughout the entire transfer and removal process. So, again, here we have this group called the Human Rights First ICE Flight Monitor. They've been recording flights as well. So now we know that for those of us that we sit here and talk a little bit about this, that ICE is actually doing their job here in the state of Idaho. Maureen Newton of the Burley Report area recently went to the airport to watch a flight for the first time. She said she read about the flights and had concerns about them. This is my taxpayer dollars here, and I'm going down to make sure that they take care of the garbage. Pretty wild stuff. We'll talk about it next at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Now, the McDaniels record videos of the boarding process, and they do all sorts of things, which, again, this is America. You can do that, right? Cowboy Calvin with his thoughts on Dolly Parton on 580 KIDO. Good morning, sir.
Well, good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you?
Me, I am living the dream.
Well, I am too. I can't complain. We're both here in Idaho. You can't get much better than that.
I would agree. And to all of those folks listening in Las Vegas, Houston, Murfreesboro, and Chicago, Heidi ho to you all.
How you doing all out there? Anyone from Alabama listening, Kevin?
You know, the closest we got is Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We got Brunswick, Georgia. I know. I'm a little hurt. Our Bama folks haven't found us yet, sadly.
I'm a little disappointed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just want to make a comment about Dolly Parton. You know, that was a great loss. My favorite song was Jolene, Don't Take My Man.
Jolene, yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I just always enjoyed listening to her and Kenny Rogers do a duet. They had some real good songs.
Oh, no, I would agree with you on that. I mean, there'll never be another Dolly.
Yeah. Never will, Kevin. I'd like to thank your listeners for their participation in the Caldwell Night Rodeo. They made it a great success.
Yeah, what did you think of the Caldwell Night Rodeo, by the way?
Well, I like it, but it's getting pretty big. It's there's a lot to be said for a small rodeo, but it's not. It's growing, very popular. Some fantastic contestants.
Yeah, there's something else, huh?
Yes, they are. People were questioning Dolly at 80 years old, but it takes passion, Kevin. Passion to do that. Obviously, she didn't need the money, but, she enjoyed it.
What do you make of that?
I kind of reflect on my past, Kevin. I didn't start professional competing until I was 49 years old. That's pretty much unheard of. And I went up to my 60s competing, but I was still beating and winning. And it was all because of my passion. Win or lose, I enjoyed it.
Well, that's the idea, right?
Well, it's supposed to be. It's not so much the fame and the fortune. To me, it was just the enjoyment of trying to go out there and do something you're good at,
Yeah, I suppose. You go back to Dolly Parton, though, when most people are taking it easy. There she is. She was going to go to Vegas and have a residency there. Can you believe that?
Well, I don't know. For taxes, it might have been beneficial. She didn't need to do that. I'm sure it set her up in the front stage,
I know. Have you ever been to Pigeon Forge? I haven't. My parents have gone, and because they live east of the Great River, they have that ability to do that.
I always spent my time down in southern Alabama. That was as far as I went north. There was enough to see out there.
Yeah, Floribama. Yeah.
Mhm. Great place if you're a beach bum.
I maybe because I've been in the West too long. If I had my way, I would just have a little shack or a little condo or a little whatever and just stare at the ocean all day. The Pacific has become my new best friend.
I was lucky. I lived west of the Pensacola Naval Air Station, and I was very close to Floribama, within 5 miles. I could practically walk there.
Oh, yeah, and obviously there's a lot of cosmetically appealing young and not so young ladies in Floribama too.
Well, it's amazing. One would think that it was just a little out of the way spot, but they got condos from Pensacola all the way up to Mobile on the beach there. Very nice place.
Oh yeah, that's what the South though. The South is known for that.
That's where Barbara Mandrell lived for years, right down in that area.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that live in the Fort Myers, Naples area. Oprah, a couple of other people. Now they've all moved to West Palm.
Mm-hmm. In Idaho.
And to Idaho. Cowboy Calvin, anything else you'd like to share with us today?
No, I just wanted to thank people immensely for their participation and helping out in the rodeo.
Well, we appreciate your participation, you helping us out.
Well, anything I can do, yeah. You have a good day, Kevin.
You made it, Cowboy Calvin. Thank you. God bless our great friend Cowboy Calvin, followed by Captain Harry with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Captain, my captain.
Top of the morning, Kevin. I'm here for Dolly Parton. She was the greatest woman. She was the Elvis of the women, probably better than Elvis. She was a great woman. And I'm going to stir it up big time here right now. I saw footage of her with Dr. Fauci supporting the vaccine and changing the words of her songs from Jolene to vaccine. She gave $1 million to help support and get that thing going. I think Dr. Fauci pretty much killed Dolly Parton. I mean, people are going to say that. But she had turbo cancer all at once. She lost her immune system. Her husband died, and then she died, and breaks my heart. But I'm going to say it. I think Dr. Fauci did not help Dolly Parton one bit. And that's all I got. I'll be standing by.
Thank you very much, our great friend, Captain Harry.
Baby, when I met you, there was peace unknown. I set out to get you with a fine-tooth comb. I was soft inside. There was something going on. You do something to me that I can't explain. Hold me closer and I feel no pain. Every beat of my heart, we got something going on.
That's amazing when you think of Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton and Islands in the Stream, and I'm sitting there watching the AI version of this. Anyway, more thoughts on Dolly, more thoughts on Kenny, more thoughts with me. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
And I'm for sure he's going to be talking to God sometime today, if he ain't already, and he's going to be asking him to spread some light on a bunch of this darkness going on here. But I loved Kenny with all my heart. My heart's broken, and a big old chunk of it has gone with him today. And I think that I can speak for all his family, his friends and fans when I say that I will always love you.
Oh, Dolly. Remembering Dolly Parton this morning. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Brian in Nampa. Good morning, Brian.
Thank you, Dolly, for all the shock and awe. Appreciate all the fun, good times you brought. And may I just say to all of her fans, she is more gorgeous now than you can imagine. And I have personal experience with that. So don't worry, Dolly's fine. She's up there with Kenny right now singing some songs. So appreciate her and all the positivity she had, even with the more questionable comedy. That was something I chuckled about. And may I just give kudos to Twin Falls and the Ice Baby. Kevin, a lot of the Democratic Socialists and Democrats forgot that Obama was a great deporter also. You know, I had a friend, Kevin, that was from Mexico, and he came here legally, but he broke our laws, some real serious laws, and my mom was the dispatcher when he got put in jail in Jefferson County, and he asked my mom, "How's Brian doing?" And she told him at the fine, he's fine. He's got 3 kids at the time and doing great. And he's like, "I always knew Brian was doing great." And my mom said, "So what happened to you?" And he said, "You know, drugs, gangs, wrong crowds." And he got deported back to Mexico because he couldn't obey the law. So if you're complaining about ICE, as Jim Carrey once said, and I'll edit this, stop breaking the blankety law. And if you have a problem with me saying that, you might be in the wrong country. Any questions, Kevin?
You know, you go back to Brian, and you've talked about dying and going to the other side. You know, what else would you like to share? I know you talk about it a lot, but for people that haven't heard.
Kevin, I'll share something that is real private, but I think it's applicable. My mom, when she died, my mom was a gorgeous woman. She was so gorgeous that she didn't have yearbooks, but my dad did. And back in the day, they used to put the prom queen on a whole page in the yearbook. And I was flipping through the yearbook, and I was about 16. And you have to understand, at this time, my mom had, you know, a lot of children, 5 children. She was a bigger lady. She loved to cook. She loved gardening. She was an awesome shot and a good hunter. She killed more game than my dad did. And she's sitting there cooking, and I'm flipping through my dad's yearbook. I come to the prom queen, and it's this gorgeous woman in a full dress. And I said out loud, "Holy cow, I didn't know they made women that looked like that back then." Mm-hmm. And my mom just kind of paused, stirring, and looked at me. And then I looked at my mom, and then I looked at this woman in this book, and I looked at my mom again. And then I read the fine print, and it said Sharon Gunnarsson. And I went, holy cow, that's my mom.
Wow.
And I shared that story at her funeral. And my mom always told me, when I die, I'm going to look like that again. Well, Kevin, after the funeral, I was so shook up, I went back to my brother in eastern Idaho's house and took a nap. Right when I fell asleep, this woman came up to me in my dream, and she was so gorgeous. I put my hand out because I didn't know who it was, and I said, "Sorry, ma'am, I'm married." And she knocked my hand to the side and gave me this great big huge bear hug. Just like my mother used to.
Wow.
And I woke straight up out of bed and went, oh, why did I wake up? That was my mother. And I went out to the front room and sat down my wife, and my wife could tell I was kind of shooken. And she said, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing. I just saw my mom. And she's more gorgeous than any of us can imagine."
Oh.
So I know from personal experience that Dolly is more gorgeous than any of us can imagine. And she's singing a song with Kenny right now. Appreciate it, Kevin. Love the show.
We love you, Brian. Glenn and Al, hang on as we remember Dolly. Winter World Boise bringing you this portion of the program. WinterWorldBoise.com. We'll tell you about them in a minute. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO Traffic. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studio. Looking good on this Midway Wednesday, coming out of Candy County into Ada County on the freeway. No major problems, beginning to build just a bit as you head down toward the county line. Nampa Caldwell Boulevard, Eagle Road, Chinden Linder Park, all looking good. Save money with Perfect Plumbing, Heating, and Air and get your annual AC tune-up just $49. Call or schedule online at callperfectnow.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on.
According to a new study, we'll share that with you. Also, Glenn, we're going to get to you and Al in a minute. But first, we go to Early Morning Ron.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Just when we thought he was going to be a late riser, Ron Grant, early in the morning. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, buddy. You never know where I'm coming out.
Well, and that's great for you, but when it comes to your money, that's a scary thought. You need to have that consistent, safe money, right, Ron?
Definitely, buddy. You know, it's funny, Kevin. I meet with a lot of new people, and most people are going to outlive their money for 3 reasons. Number 1, they didn't start early enough. Number 2, they didn't put enough away. But number 3, and this is the habitual offender, they stayed in risk too long. And what we know about risk? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, variable annuities, oil, gas, etc. You know, my clients and I, we like to sleep at night knowing that we have our money protected 100%, where we can't lose the principal and we can't lose any gains that we've already earned. It's so important to have a lifetime income. And if you're married, when one spouse passes, the other spouse gets that lifetime income for the rest of their life. And then when they've passed, whatever's left goes to the beneficiaries. You know, people work so hard for that dignity money, Kevin. They want to make sure that they have a good lifetime income coming in for their retirement. And it's so important to have that.
Well, when we're talking about that, Ron, how can people get a hold of you to have a discussion?
Well, I put together an educational website that they can go on 24/7, articles to read, videos to take a look at. In fact, there's even a book they can download, 10 Things to Know About Retirement Income. That address is safermoneyspecialist.com. But, let's have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley about how you can have a guaranteed income that you can't outlive with zero stock market risk. Most importantly is that legacy protection for you and your family so you can enjoy your retirement. That's 208-660-1372.
Ron Grant, thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Have a good day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Glenn in Nampa with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Kevin. It's hard when somebody passes. You think about Larry Gebert, you think about Dolly Parton. But as believers in Christ, we have to remember that there is life after this life here. And she will live again. We will see them all again. And so while it's sad in the moment, we need to find that hope in Jesus Christ and know that it's not over. I'm going to switch gears on you here a little bit. Lejo was talking yesterday about the Ada County prosecutors, and I know I've told you in the past about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I got hit by an illegal alien that refused to pull over. I had to follow him on 911 until the police pulled him over. He had no insurance, no license, no registration, and no driver's license. And this case has been dragging on. He failed to appear on the leaving the scene of an accident charge and had a bench warrant for a while. Early this year in February, he got pulled over again for driving without privileges and was arrested on the warrant in my case. And he was able to get a public defender. And I keep watching on the iCourt what's going on with the case. And from what I can tell, he has a warrant in my case and the court case from February. I got a call from the Ada County prosecutor a couple weeks ago, and they want to offer a guy a plea deal in my case. And the plea deal they want to offer is 30 days in jail, suspended, with credit for like 5 days served when he was arrested back in February before he could post bail. They want to give him a $500 fine, also suspended. And then he has to pay like $200 in court costs, and then he gets a year of unsupervised probation. And as far as I can tell in talking to the prosecutor, he's never even shown up for court, and he still has 2 active arrest warrants. And the prosecutor asked me what I thought about this deal, and I told him it was a bunch of crap. That here we have a guy that is flaunting the law, hasn't even shown up to court, and they want to offer him a deal where he basically has to pay $200 and walks away. It just blows my mind. It's unreal.
Well, what did the prosecutor say when you said, nope?
And I said, well, do you realize that he has another case pending for driving without privileges and an open warrant? He's like, no. I said, well, look it up on the court. He looked it up, but they still want to give the deal as far as I know. And the only thing I can do is show up when they offer the plea deal and give a victim impact statement and hope the judge looks at what I say and sees the guy's history, that he doesn't respect the law. He's here illegally. He doesn't have a driver's license. He's been stopped at least twice for driving without a license, driving without insurance, no registration, and fleeing the scene of an accident. So, people like this need to be gone. they need to not be here because they are showing that they are not willing to follow the law. And for him to get a plea like that when he hasn't even shown up for court once is ludicrous. He should be in jail. He should serve his time. I understand the jails are full, supposedly, and there's not space. And this theoretically is a minor thing. Nobody got hurt. But this person has shown repeated behavior that he's going to continue breaking the law.
I would agree. And then, the people that make money off him, the employers.
The employers, yep. The public defender that we're paying for this guy, too. Working on trying to get him a deal or whatever, and guy doesn't even show up for court. It's pretty ridiculous, honestly. I'm almost tempted to call Canyon County the day of the sentencing hearing and tell them, hey, this guy that you have a warrant for is going to show up at court. You might want to arrest him. They probably won't do it. There's probably
you could call ICE.
Something that... What's that?
You could call ICE.
Yeah, I've already reported him to ICE, but they don't seem to do anything. I don't know. Apparently he's not dangerous enough, not enough of a criminal that they worry about people like him. So...
Well, Glenn, thank you for the call. Appreciate that.
Yep, and to Al, he certainly has a dizzying intellect.
Oh, yeah, Al's coming up. Thank you very much for the call. Al next. Kevin Miller, 580.
You're a big dummy there. I'm not kidding you. You're a big dummy.
KIDO Talk Radio, your home for Hannity.
Yo, VIP, let's get... Good morning. Yeah, the only thing I could say about Dolly is basically the same thing Captain Harry said. Great observation, Captain Harry. I was gonna, we'll see what we can get in here. But, since Glenn was talking about, Lee Joe yesterday, and I think Lee Joe made some really great points yesterday. I think we have to look at our system and how this thing functions, how this juris-putrefaction system functions. We see the courts were erected to adjudicate disputes. Now they're operating as processing facilities. Their dockets are clogged with statutory violations that lack injured parties. Their calendars are dominated by plea arrangements that obviate evidentiary examination, right? So really, what do we have here? We have the juris-putrefaction system actually transforming into a system of predation. Okay, and then you see, and so you can't get any justice on the street because the dockets are clogged with all of this crazy juris-putrefaction, where you have ideological opponents who are being tracked down by law enforcement. Let's be real. The FBI that was originally chartered to investigate interstate criminality now devotes its time to what? Manufacturing terrorism through entrapment of vulnerable individuals, then publicizing these manufactured plots as justification for expanded surveillance. Okay, so the whole system goes against the people. Glenn is not going to get any justice. The whole darn thing is clogged up. It's clogged up with this crazy type of predation that it used to be the system of our jurisprudence that used to be designed to stop people who are predators. No, now the system is the predator, unfortunately. And, the police chief yesterday talking, he's not the chief. He's just a mercenary for the deep state. That's the problem. I mean,
that's not very nice.
Well, okay. No. So what I mean is so he doesn't, I'm not saying that he actually understands this. I mean, I think he really feels that he, is doing, listen, everybody feels deep down that they are, all the police chiefs, all the police officers, they deep down feel that they are doing the great job that they're paid to do. And they're trying to be the best that they can be. But what I'm saying is, at a at the most basic level, when you understand who's paying their salary, okay, I don't think they look at it that way. I don't think most people look at it this way. I don't think they understand it. I don't think the people understand it. But when you have money printers who are printing money, and that money, like Idaho, 43% of Idaho's budget comes from the government. So when you understand that the money printers are really the bosses, okay? So when I say that this police chief,
what is this? I mean, this is just going over the obvious here. What's new? This is just boring.
Well, I mean, I don't think it is the obvious. Now, maybe you think it is, but I don't think that people really realize that what we have here is something whereby, the people, they're not concerned with flock cameras because they have no philosophical grounding. They don't understand that. Okay, so yesterday you said, hey, let's have a conversation about our, communism and free markets. Okay, so the first thing we have to do in that conversation, Kevin, is we have to take away the monikers. We have to take away communism. We have to take away free markets. We have to take away capitalism and just look. Okay, when you're looking at a system that controls people, it has two parts. One is political. The other is economic, right? So if you're saying, wait a second, just, don't call anything. Let's look at our economic system. And economics is the production, the distribution and consumption of goods and services, right? But we can break it down even further. Okay, and what you have there is you have incentives, trade-offs, and scarcity. And so what the political system needs to do is it needs to establish an incentive system that maximizes production, right? But unfortunately, what our political system does and what it's been doing is that it's been engaging in all types of rent-seeking activity. So, production, okay, and
remembering a music icon, Dolly Parton, and of course, Dolly with Kenny Rogers and Islands in the Stream and everything else, and just really an iconic superstar. We've been taking your calls all morning long. Really from Jelly Roll to Miley Cyrus to Kenny Rogers, just again, Whitney Houston, the impact she had. And then not only was she a great star of music, but a great entrepreneur, a great role model, and a movie star. And, we're reflecting on Dolly today, the world mourning this country iconic superstar.
I graduated on a Friday night and headed out on a Saturday morning. And as I make jokes about it with my matching luggage, those 4 paper bags from the same grocery store. I thought, well, I can't be any poorer than I already am. And I'm a girl. I'll find some boy that'll take me to Shoney's. I thought, I'm not going to go hungry. And I'd left 2 boyfriends back home. The last thing I wanted was a boyfriend because I was headed out for my big career.
2 boyfriends?
Well, I've always had more than 2, but I always had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. All
right.
There was a laundromat down from my little apartment where I was going to be staying. So the very day I go down to the laundromat, this good-looking man just drives by, and he says something like, well, where are you going to get sunburned out here? And I say something stupid like, well, what's it to you? We start talking, and 2 years later, we married, and we're still married, and that was that.
You just go walking in with your dirty clothes, and you walk out with
Carl Dean.
They remained together for close to 6 decades, and the whole time, Carl Dean was fiercely private and remained out of public view.
What's the secret?
Stay gone. Actually, there's a lot of truth in not being together all the time, but he's a very independent spirit, too. He's a country boy. He loves to work on his tractors, and he was in asphalt paving. He likes the privacy, and he would never in a million years do an interview.
Oh, gosh. Well, you guys eloped, right?
Well, we were in love, and my mom went with me. She'd made me a little white dress, and I carried my little white Bible with a little flower on top.
Once Dolly got to Nashville, things really took off for her, and she'd record her first studio album in 1968.
My first RCA album was a song called Just Because I'm a Woman. My mistakes are no worse than yours, just because I'm a woman. It's about men, wanting to use all these women, and then when they want to get married, they want a virgin, and they want to do this and that, and they think, oh, if you've been with someone, I don't want you, even if I love you. But it was a number one song here, and it was one of the first. I was just the victim of a man that let me down. I graduated on a Friday night and headed out on a...
There we have it, remembering the great Dolly Parton. And again, 80 years old, always making people laugh, talking about God. Of course, you remember her in the movie 9 to 5, the song 9 to 5, and of course, so many iconic songs with and without Kenny Rogers, and the whole idea that she could continue to reinvent herself. And remember from The Bodyguard, the iconic Whitney Houston song that was really the Dolly Parton song.
It's my song, but it's most definitely her record. It didn't sound like that when I had it. She made me rich. I've never been the kind of writer that's always looked for a perfect song. I write because I have to. I write because I love to, and because I want to. There are certain songs, though, that I do write. I think, ooh, now that is good. I Will Always Love You has the simple melody, and it's easy to sing. It also fits so many types of things. Like people tell me, we played this at the hospital when my daddy was dying. He loved this song. They played this at my graduation when my son was going off to college. In fact, Elvis' manager wanted to have the publishing on that song, and I wouldn't allow it because it was my most important copyright. It broke my heart because Elvis didn't get to sing it, but I had to hold on to it. Elvis loved this song. In fact, Priscilla had told me that when she and Elvis were leaving the courthouse after they divorced, he was singing that to her walking out. So she said he did love it.
That was one of the great career decisions Dolly Parton made in her life, because Elvis was Elvis, for God's sake. And she said no, and that demonstrated her astuteness as a businesswoman. That was a great chess move.
Is the most unbelievable thing I'd ever heard. I'd never even believed my little song could be done like that. People say, well, she claims it's her record. I said, it is her record. It's my song, but it's most definitely her record. It didn't sound like that when I had it. She made me rich.
Remembering the great Dolly Parton at 580 KIDO. Phone numbers 580-5436. And amazing when you hear the stories of not only was she a writer, a singer, a producer, a talent, a businesswoman, but Elvis wanted that song. And remember, there was no one bigger than Elvis. A modern day Michael Jackson, maybe. You could say Taylor Swift today, but Elvis, because the distribution was so small compared to today, to tell Elvis, sorry, no. Amazing. Joining us now, our great friend Theo Wold, who, Theo comes, Theo goes, but here he is. Great to have you with us, sir. Welcome home.
Thanks, Kevin. It's good to be with you.
Where have you been?
All over. Too much in D.C., but on Air Force orders down in Florida, and spent a little bit of time in Wyoming with the family this summer, and a lot of time in Idaho. So a little bit all over.
Yeah, you sound kind of tired.
I am tired. But I am tired, boss. I'm tired. The 5 kids I think it's catching up to both my wife and I. But it's a blessing and joy. But when they get you up at 4:30 in the morning on the one day you can sleep in, it catches up to you.
Well, they call that a blessing, Theo. Let's talk a little bit about, since we've gotten you ready to go here, let's talk about Prop 1 in Idaho and the move to keep Idaho abortion free. How do you see it playing out, sir?
Kevin, I think this, like a lot of the different questions that are coming before Idahoans, is really going to depend on who's here and who's voting. I think the state is undergoing a massive demographic change, and I think anyone who's confused about what, for example, Micron will mean for the future of the state needs to just go and see who's taking some of the jobs there. These are people who, they don't have the same sort of traditional values, if you will, of longstanding Idaho residents or native-born Idahoans. And I think there's a real possibility for something of a political earthquake in Idaho if people don't get out and vote. People are always asking questions of, like, what's the strategy? What's the best messaging? What's the best talking points to try and educate voters about how extreme Proposition 1 is? And that's all important, but I really do think at the end of the day, if people can't get off their jet skis or leave their second home in McCall for a day and go cast a ballot, none of the best talking points in the world or the education initiatives are going to matter, because a low turnout affair, the Democrats and the far left are going to get their infanticide. And to be clear, that's what this initiative would do. There's just 2 things I'd highlight for your listeners, Kevin. One, the initiative is extremely expansive in its notion of what constitutes fetal viability. So viability really, under the definitions of the initiative itself, you cannot have fetal viability really is defined as without medical assistance, substantive medical assistance. So that would include everything from an incubator to anything you would provide for a premature baby. So really most physicians who have been consulted on the language would say about 8 months, in some instances 9 months. So really a term baby, a full-term baby could be aborted under this language. And the other one I really think should be highlighted to your listeners is they define reproductive rights extremely expansively, and reproductive rights essentially has anything to do with the sexual organs of an individual. And for anyone who's keeping score at home, that means that the state's prohibitions on gender-affirming care would also be they would be thrown out the window with this initiative. So transing of minor children would become legal under Idaho law if this initiative passes. And look, there's just a whole parade of horribles that come with this initiative. But again, it won't matter if people don't do the simple act, that sacred right that we are all endowed with under our Constitution, do the simple act of getting out and voting against it.
Theo Wold joining us, Kevin Mill in the Morning, KIDO Talk Radio. You would think, though, and it does seem that people are united to stop this. Various groups that can't get along with each other seem to be agreeing on this issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good sign. The question is whether or not it will be enough to stop the out-of-state money pouring into Idaho to fund this. It should surprise no one that some of the leading supporters of this initiative are, tech barons in Seattle and progressive cause celeb figures in Malibu and Manhattan. I mean, this is kind of their playbook. And the sure sign of this is the initiative language that's on the ballot is essentially a copy and paste job of the same initiative that has run in Ohio, in Montana, in Kansas. They've made a few slight alterations here and there, but in the main, this is literally just a template that they're using to attack the laws of red states all across the country. And it's the same, organizational superstructure. that's pushing it. It's the same group of donors who are funding it. So, yeah, Kevin, it's great news that our side is, the sort of entities in the state who want to protect the law and want to protect the right of Idaho's sort of small R Republican system of government. I mean, the legislature dealt with this issue. They debated this issue over years, and there were some, parts of the law that were voted down by the state legislature. There were other parts that were affirmed. The way they want to portray this is a group of extremist legislators essentially wrote the law in Idaho in a back room, and that's just simply not true. Maybe it's true for people who just arrived here and be hoodwinked into a storyline that they, stole from a plot, on some kind of TV show. But for anyone who's been following the development of this area of law in Idaho, this has been the work of lots of really smart, insightful people over years, decades, working in concert with physicians and, women's representatives to craft a law that protects women's health, obviously, but more importantly, the health of a mother and the unborn child.
Our great friend Theo Wohl joining us, Kevin Mill in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So, Theo, let's go to what's going on with your former boss, your current boss, all of our boss, President Trump.
Yeah, it's been a lot coming out of Washington the last few months. I think everyone is. If you weren't paying attention to sort of national politics, I think everyone is wondering what kind of policy are we actually crafting that will alleviate some of the costs that consumers are facing. What are we doing to secure America's interests at home and abroad? I think Kevin, we've talked about this before, but the length and the reach of the Chinese Communist Party now inside of the United States is immense. I mean, just this morning, a good friend of mine broke a story on Stephen Chu, if you recall, was President Obama's Secretary for Energy, but that prior to Stephen Chu's nomination, he was listed as the president of an overseas CCP organization that was advocating for CCP commercial interests in the United States. And this never came up in his Senate hearing. There was no due diligence by anyone who should have been doing it on the Republican side. And he was, confirmed and put in the role of Secretary of Energy, which handles, as people know in Idaho, our nuclear laboratories, our research facilities. So, I think a lot of people are concerned about a whole host of issues, data centers, the cost of ground beef. But one issue I think that we should be talking about more is how involved China now is in our domestic politics and how they are shaping the national debate surreptitiously through social media and through paid influencers who are pushing a division and pushing a whole host of talking points to pit Americans against each other.
Theo, can you hang on for a minute?
Yeah. Of course.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our great friend Theo Wohl joining us. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. The biography of Dolly Parton, and you were blown away by just Dolly, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, Kevin. I mean, what I was saying is that story you were just telling about, her holding on to the rights to "I Will Always Love You" and sort of refusing the overtures from Elvis. I mean, you're exactly right. I don't think even people who love Dolly, unless you're of that time, I don't think you can really conceptualize what that would mean to say no to Elvis. But tucked into the folds of that same story is really something that's also, I think, overlooked in all of her successes as an entrepreneur, as sort of a cultural icon, and obviously as a singer, she was a really talented artist. And, when you get down to like, what is the artistry of music making, in large part, obviously it's the ability to sing or play an instrument, which Dolly excelled at, but also to be a songwriter. I mean, she really was a poet, the poet bard of Appalachia. And I think that's often forgotten about her contributions. And, I said something to a friend the other day that I think a lot of people are commenting on how she really is one of the last remaining universal sort of figures who people on the left and the right can agree upon that, wow, this is a significant American. And I think why that is true is that her music was rooted in a particular place and a particular culture. You know, it wasn't just like cut and paste AI fabricated lyrics that someone in London, just as well as someone, you know, in Singapore could sing. She was telling stories about real people, maybe she grew up with or her own family members, but they were all of sort of the Scots-Irish Appalachian folklore. And that resonated even with people, you know, like, you know, Merle Haggard in Bakersfield, or, you know, other people would sample her music later on, rappers in New York, because it was quintessentially American. And in that, there's a little thread that speaks to all Americans, wherever you are. And so I think that's one of the things that is the true genius of Dolly, is that she was a really gifted artist, a really gifted writer, and she put to words what so many people experienced as working class Americans, or people struggling as single moms or widows, or people who were down on their luck. And I think even in her saddest songs, she captured something very uniquely American. I hesitate to say we'll never see someone like that again. I hope we will. I hope we will see more musicians, especially in an age of AI. This is, you know, sort of switch topics real quickly, Kevin. One of my theories on AI is people say, oh, it's killing the recording industry. I think sadly that may be true, but I hope one of the things that will grow out of that is people will come to see that AI just produces slop. It's all just kind of generic garbage in, garbage out. A computer doesn't have the same feel, the same sort of humaneness to it. And so people will then start to say, why am I paying for this slop produced, you know, in some studio with digitized music? I'm going to take my money, I'm going to go hear live musicians. And this will open the door again. That has not really been true in 30, 40 years, depending on the genre of music, to smaller acts, to people who have learned the artistry, writing their own lyrics and mastering an instrument, whether that instrument's their voice or a guitar. And I hope that's one of the things that Americans will start to prioritize is true talent, musical talent, performing talent in live venues, that we actually recapture some of our own culture. And that's one of the things I think Dolly really, she really defined, was a big piece of American culture.
And truly never stop working, like your boss, President Trump.
No, I mean, you know, my wife is a huge Dolly fan. Her whole family is, you know, they're all working class people. And Dolly is just sort of just whether it was Christmas or, you know, July 4th, it's Dolly, Dolly, Dolly. And when she opened that new gas station, you know, Dolly would never say it was a competitor for Buc-ee's, but, you know, using sort of her resources to create a similar model, but with her stamp on it. That was just like a month ago. And you know, my wife was saying, like, man, I wish we could be at that opening for that gas station. But now when you look back on it, Kevin, it's like she was suffering under the immense pain of this cancer, on top of the various health ailments she's had over the last 2 years, where she's had to cancel, you know, a couple of different, you know, concert appearances in Vegas and some other places. And she was still pushing forward with a new entrepreneurial venture. And so many people have said in the last 24 hours, there's so many unspoken threads to Dolly's entrepreneurship, how she employed not just members of her own family, but of her community that she grew up in good jobs, not just, you know, folding sweaters at a tourist trap at Dollywood, but good jobs that required skill, that required people to be trained and to develop skills. And the same with this gas station, that they're paying real wages. They have a high school, you know, sort of apprenticeship program attached to it. And it's like that's the kind of person you hope succeeds in our society, because she took her money and her immense celebrity, and she invested it in people who deserve, working Americans who deserve a fair shake, whether it was her literacy programs or some of the jobs training programs attached to places like Dollywood. And I wish that more celebrities and people of wealth would look at someone like Dolly and say, I want to do that and 10X it. I want to do a literacy program like the Imagination Library and scale it to every state, every community in the country, and get every kid involved in something like this. That's the real. That's I hope one of the takeaways people will have from her life is that she, as you said, she was always working, but also always working for the betterment of the American people.
Theo Wold joining us. Theo, do you have a minute or not?
Yeah, I can stick around. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Much more coming up with our great friend Theo Wold. As we move on, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, brought to you by our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru. Let's get you to work safely and on time. 580 KIDO Traffic. Hello, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studios, here comes the sun and here comes the slowdowns traveling eastbound on the freeway. Coming out of Candy County into Ada County, right at the county line, you're really bogged down headed into the Meridian area. Nampa, Caldwell Boulevard, Eagle Road, Chinle, Linder Park, you do have construction, but no accidents there. Vinson Lumber is your cedar factory outlet, saving you 70% off the big box stores. Now in Kuna, online at vinsonlumber.com. That's your traffic now on
about him and wanting him on. We've seen you on the videos on the Newsmax and everything else. So here we have the president, the trade war, the Iranians. Where would you like to begin?
Yeah, I mean, real quick on the trade war, I think, look, I think everyone, like I was speaking to someone who's a welder the other day, and he was saying, I supported the tariff policy, but the way it's being applied, I'm just getting, jammed on every component part I need to do my work. And so I'd say top line, Kevin, I don't think anyone who supported the ideas of getting fair trade likes sort of the notion that we're going to be inundated with cheap plastic crap from Sri Lanka and China and Pakistan. But if you want to buy sort of, highly sophisticated equipment to do a certain type of job from Japan or Norway, that you're going to have to pay nearly half the value of the good in duties. I don't think anyone really likes that. And now, when you look at the situation with Canada, there are two industries in particular that I think Idahoans should be pretty ticked off about. That's the dairy industry in Canada and their lumber, their timber industry. Both of those have operated under essentially protectionist government subsidized monopolies in Canada. They've engaged in extremely predatory pricing and extremely anti-competitive behavior with U.S. firms, with U.S. companies. And look, I think, when you're talking about negotiating the basic framework of whatever we're calling it now, USMC, NAFTA 3.0, these were sticking points for the administration to say, like, look, if we're really going to have free trade or fair trade, you're going to have to actually comply with some of the same rules that we have to abide by in this country, that our dairymen have to play by, that our, timber industry has to play by. And the Canadians said no. And, my good friend, Jameson Greer, who's the current U.S. trade rep, he was quoted just the other day is when he was asked about this whole thing where the president declared war on French-speaking Canada because of certain carve-outs protecting, language in regulations and things for Quebec. And Jameson said it's simply not true. The real issue came down to, would Canada stop engaging in anti-competitive behavior, including IP theft of U.S. firms? The same kind of thing that we don't like when the Chinese do to us. And the Canadians walked away from the negotiating table. So I don't think anyone is happy about this. But the one thing I would know, and I know this will anger some people, listening in, is a lot of these questions really come down to, do we have sort of that same spirit that animated the greatest generation to say, I'm going to have to kick in and make a few sacrifices here and there. And I would be the first person to say, no one should have to sacrifice their home, their children's well-being. But are we willing to make a few sacrifices in the short term to have better deals and a better economy for all Americans in the long term? And I think that's at root in this particular trade war with Canada. And the last thing I'll just say on Canada is, I see these cartoons and the memes people putting out about like beavers and Mountie costumes and, lumberjacks complaining about Trump. Let's be clear about one thing. That Canada doesn't exist anymore. I mean, Canada, in large part, especially in Western Canada, is essentially a colony of the Chinese Communist Party. They have infiltrated their government. They occupy leading roles in a lot of their industries. Canada is a massive natural resource supplier to China. And again, let's just remember what the premier of China said, then premier of China said to President Trump in the first term, which was, in the future, the United States, and we can say sort of North America, will supply China with labor and natural resources. That's all you're good for. And the Chinese have essentially, caved to that. I mean, Mark Carney, their prime minister, went to a bilateral meeting last year and said he wants a new world order with China at the top. I don't know how much more clear the Canadians can be with Americans than to say, we don't really want you guys to be top dog anymore. And though we share things like NORAD and a totally open, unsecure border, we're going to allow the Chinese to move in and, invest in our security strategy, to invest in our military apparatus, and also to have leading positions of influence in our economy and our media. I think that should worry any American. So I'm not going to justify whether or not the tariffs are going to work. I'm certainly not going to say that, people won't suffer, especially in certain industries. But people should also be clear-eyed about this. This isn't Canada from 1960. They're not just up there playing hockey and drinking maple syrup. Is a demographically changed country, and also one that the Chinese have seen as essentially a way of hanging a sword over the top of the head, literally, of our country. So on that score, look, we'll see. On the Iranian thing, I mean, I don't think anyone is pleased with the way this has gone. If you are, then I don't know what industry you're in, but I don't think it was. I think people who had misgivings about the start of this conflict have been proven right. I think, anyone who has done a war game involving the Strait of Hormuz, I've done a couple, can tell you that even when you're doing essentially a mock-up of what this would look like, it never ends well for the United States or its allied partners. The Strait of Hormuz is an extremely difficult piece of geography, and the Iranians essentially designed their national defense architecture around the idea of bringing the entire global energy supply chain to a screeching halt. And I think every American is in the same place, which is we want this conflict to end as soon as possible. It's hurting us at the pumps, but more importantly, we have real defense industrial base shortages in this country, and we don't have the capacity to produce the kinds of munitions we need as fast as we need them. The conflict in Ukraine really sucked a lot of the storehouse we had left. And I think the Iranians, now backed by their friends in China and Russia, are well aware that we don't have the tools, including certain types of missiles necessary for a prolonged conflict. And the longer they can keep us there, the more they know that we are going to be in a real bind. And I think that's another thing I would just note, not sharing anything that's classified, but the Iranians are obviously being backed by the Chinese in this conflict, and that varies across the board and what type of support, but material and technical support. And so, look, our adversaries across the Pacific know exactly what time it is. I just wish more Americans did.
Theo Wohl joining us as a man who has spent many training sessions in that beautiful hamlet of Montgomery, Alabama. What do you make? What do you make of our media and the Democrats openly cheering for our defeat in this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had something polite I could say over the airwaves. I haven't. It's deeply unsettling, and from planned visits to certain Iranian leaders to just the open disavowal of American military, protection of American military personnel from Democrat Socialists of America, leading figures in the DSA, I should say, not just fly-by-night commentators. I think we are in a very new period, and this is one of those things where people will often say, why is Theo always talking about immigration? The Michigan Senate primary, Democrat Senate primary, is very revealing here, which when you look at the crosstabs and you look at, native-born Americans voted overwhelmingly for, Haley Stevens, who is by no means like a moderate Democrat, by no means. She's just not calling for the imposition of Sharia law and some of these other things. But, sort of naturalized Americans and second-generation children of immigrants, many of them, you can assume, anchor babies, birthright citizens, voted almost at an 89% clip for El Sayed. And one of the things that a lot of, I think, Idahoans are going to wake up to here in the not so distant future is that people who are immigrating to this country, number one, are not being assimilated. And I will argue that point with anyone, anywhere, anytime. This was, something I've shared with you before, Kevin, but behind closed doors in the White House, any number of leftist groups who argued vociferously against President Trump's immigration policies, behind closed doors, they would say, yeah, we have an assimilation crisis. Like, we're not assimilating anyone anymore. They're not learning to speak English. They're not learning basic civics. They're certainly not sort of accommodating American cultural customs. It's a giant crisis. It's a tsunami. So we're not assimilating anyone. And number two, I think a lot of these people are now coming with hostile views, and those views include things like it would be better for the world if China ran the world's economy or ran sort of security strategy for the Pacific. And people who say things like, we're going to hold a funeral service for the death of the Ayatollah because he was a leader that we like and we have an affinity for. I think those aren't just one-off like radical Islamic clerics at some crazy mosque in Dearborn. That is increasingly reflective of almost to use Nixon's phrase, like a new silent majority. More and more foreign nationals who are voting in our elections don't actually have the interest of the American Republic at heart. And I think that should worry everyone. And that's played out in sort of the Democrats' media messaging, which is essentially like, I hope we lose. I hope we lose because it will be not just egg in the face of President Trump, but it will be a part of systematically deconstructing the great colonizer, as so many figures like AOC call the United States. That it will be better for the world if the United States is not able to effectuate its own security and economic policy.
And Theo, the false narrative perpetrated by the media where they say this was an unnecessary war.
I mean, that's it's just insane. It's just insane. I mean, and I encourage anyone, a lot of Americans have as their starting point here the fall of the Shah and, the hostage crisis and Jimmy Carter's failed attempt to rescue some of the hostages. But the conflict with Iran, predates even the return of monarchical rule in Iran. We have had our difficulties. The West has had its difficulties with Persia for a long time, but from the imposition of the Islamic Republic, it's not just that they sponsor Hezbollah and Hamas. It's not just that they killed, hundreds of thousands of American servicemen and women in, multiple Gulf War campaigns, including the most recent under President Bush, but that they are a global sponsor of terror, of targeting American citizens on cruise ships, on airplanes, and this has been going on now for about 50 years. So the idea that allowing Iran first to achieve a nuclear weapon or to essentially have Chinese-backed total control of the Strait of Hormuz, it shouldn't worry Americans is crazy town. Now, as I said before, whether or not this was the right strategic choice at this time, I think that's a debatable point. But the idea that this is, quote, like a vanity war for President Trump is ridiculous.
Theo, how do you see the midterms playing out?
I'm not hopeful, Kevin. Which shouldn't surprise you. And the usual proviso attaches here, folks, which is I'm notorious for being fairly pessimistic. I think we're pretty late in the day of the American Republic. I think if people don't put the shoulder to the stone and really start thinking as counter-revolutionaries, we're going to be very, very, very shocked by what happens next. And I mean that counter-revolutionary, the DSA and the far-left radical forces that we see in our own state, and the people who sort of pussyfoot around the DSA, who tacitly accept their support, like Mayor McClain in Boise. Those people are egging on a dramatic, revolutionary sort of initiative in our country. Their policies are absolutely bonkers, but they also are open about wanting to push those policies no matter what, including with violence. So I think it's late in the day, and as far as it goes with the midterms, look, here's what I'd say real quick on the scorecard. Alaska's a jump ball or worse. Ranked choice voting was designed to keep Lisa Murkowski in that seat, but the upshot of it is Democrats, as people are now waking up, qualified a candidate for the ballot who was a former Democrat, re-registered as a Republican, has the same name as the incumbent senator, Dan Sullivan. that wasn't designed to play hoodwinks in the primary. That's what a lot of people thought. No, it was designed to siphon votes away from Dan Sullivan in the general election, so that under ranked choice voting, when the candidates are re-ranked on first and second preference, the Democrat will benefit. So I think Alaska is a jump ball. I think John Husted, the appointed senator in Ohio who took J.D. Vance's seat, he lacks charisma. He is not good on a lot of working class union issues. Historically hasn't been good on those things. And he's running against Sherrod Brown, who is beloved by Ohio's manufacturing working class base. Even today, people do that sort of differentiation to say, I'm not really pleased with the Democrat Party, but Sherrod Brown is different. That's going to be a really tough race. I think we lose North Carolina as it stands right now. We really are not going to be competitive in the one place where we could have been, which is in Georgia, unfortunately. And I think Texas is a jump ball as well. I mean, Ken Paxton, I hate to break this to a lot of people, but the internal polling does not look good at this point. I think Paxton has a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to get in front of, this Viper James Talrico. So look, those are just a couple of seats. I think Michigan is also a jump ball. And that's just speaking on the Senate side. On the House side, I mean, we'll see if the redistricting efforts led by the White House Political Strategy Office play out to the way they sort of gamed it out. If they get the maximum number of seats and don't have any, losses, especially in a place like Texas where the maps were drawn, where some current Republican incumbents are going to have marginal seats in a wave year. But I think the House is, unfortunately, I know this will scare a lot of people, particularly because of what the Senate can do. I think the House might be in better shape now than the Senate in retaining Republican control in the Senate.
Theo Wold, anything else that you would like to join us? We understand you're busy, but we do appreciate you joining us when you can.
Oh, no, Kevin, it's always great to be with you. I think the last thing I'd just say is there's also going to be another ballot measure on your ballot this November. Anyone listening in should really clue in to, I believe it's HRJ 6, which is a ballot measure that I helped co-write that would declare under law English language as the official language of Idaho. It's the first step to really ensuring that Americans who speak English are not made to feel unwelcome or to feel like they are second-class citizens in their own country in the courts, when dealing with the police or any other agency or arm of government, that the government has to actually speak our own language. And so when people are thinking about Prop 1, not only should you get out and vote against Prop 1, but you should turn out and vote for a constitutional amendment to declare English the official language of the state of Idaho.
Theo Wold, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Our great friend Theo Wold. Kevin Miller will get your reaction next. Very quick break. 580 KIDO. At 580 KIDO.
Well, buenos dias, Idaho. Oh, what was that gentleman's name that was so full of himself that you just had on?
Theo Wold, who used to work for President Trump personally in the White House.
What's his net worth?
I don't know.
In the millions. Isn't it amazing all these guys that got so much money know how to tell the poor Americans how to live? Like our Secretary of Treasury is worth, what's he worth, 800 million? The one that wants to put the heavy tariffs on Canada or the war with Canada. Oh, what are we going to do with these people? Oh, Dolly Parton. Oh, my God. I will miss her so much every time she comes on or talks. You can't help but have your heart just open right up to that woman. She is so beautiful. Don't you agree, Kevin? She is just one beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And she's written so many articles and books. And one of her most famous quotes that helped me out a long time ago in her book was, I'm trying to think of what it exactly said. Something about no, I remember now. If you don't like the road, Kevin, you're walking on, start paving another one. Dolly Parton. That's on page 260 of her book. And the other cute one that she wrote was, it's a good thing I was born a girl, otherwise I'd be a drag queen. That's on page 208. Yes, she's got over 180 quotes by her in that book, and every one is worth reading. And this makes this one applies to you, Kevin. Storms, and you had a lot of storms in your life. Storms make trees take deeper roots, right? That's what she said. Anyway, stay fired up. And did you get my information on my new home away from home?
Yeah, you're moving to where? Argentina?
Argentina.
It looks like a box.
So it's built for $75,000. What do you want? Well, 66 is what I got them back.
Actually, Tea Party Bob says you're full of excrement.
Yeah, Tea Party Bob, I love you, man. I really do. But you should really start turning your life around because, at your age, what do you got? 5, 6 years, and those aren't really going to be good years. So that's 5, 6 summers you got to turn it around, Bobby. Stay fired up, Kevin. And Bobby, nobody likes you.
We go to Chandler, who joins us now at 580 KIDO. Hello, Chandler.
Hey, Kev. Good morning. Wow, lots of good stuff today. I'd like to quote the immortal Lee Corso. Not so fast. But first, regarding Dolly Parton, did you know she was actually a Playboy bunny? Did you know that? Hugh Hefner had quite the eye for talent, and even the gays loved her. Not so fast. So first off, Theo Wold made a mistake, a very important mistake that I would like to correct. Take your favorite AI tool and ask the question, is Hamas Sunni or Shia? And it'll say Hamas is Sunni, right? Not Shia, not Iran-aligned, not at all. That's the Gulf states, that's Saudi Arabia, that's, if you can't even get your enemy right, you're going to lose. Anyway, so regarding the AI thing too, as a former recording musical artist and someone who used to actually have to deal with artists for package design and graphic artwork, artists are incredibly difficult to work with, and AI is a tool. And just like the turntable DJs and mixing allowed people who had a vision to make that a reality, it's a tool. So how you use the tool, what you do with it. There's a show on VH1 I've seen where it has the people who actually mix the records cut by band and records the sound, creates it, crafts it, edits it down. And that's the thing AI does. It really allows you to fine tune, perfect, and make music in a way that was not possible before. So in some ways, I think you're going to get even better music. A great example is like ELO. The guy behind that, he didn't like the album. So by himself, he note for note redid the whole album by himself, spent years and years in time. Now with AI, he could probably do that in minutes. So that's what's going on with that. And in regarding the flock camera thing, I was working the booth for the GOP, and I had a person come up, and she told me about how one digit off her car was misread and put him in the wrong location, and so she had to deal with a ticket out of Vegas, and she lives here or in an adjacent
Chandler,
state.
do you have a minute? Hang on, Chandler. We're going to get to Chandler, then our Fox News folks, and then you. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Chandler, we go to Jeff Manasso with the latest on the meat, the beef, the stuff. Good morning.
Hey, buddy. Good to be with you.
Well, it's when we talk about meat, we like to talk about the beef here in Idaho.
Lots of demand for beef, and there's a not necessarily a war, but it's two narratives, and both sides are right. We've got a 75-year low beef supply shortage in this country, driven by drought, other factions, as well as as of late, a ban on Mexican imports over parasite infections, the New World screwworm, which is, surged the average price for a pound of ground beef to about $6.90 per pound. And now you've got some Republicans, many in ranching states, Montana, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, others, who say that, his intentions are good, but that President Trump's plan that's not finalized to allow up to 300,000 metric tons of imported ground beef to enter the U.S. over 90 days at a low cost without triggering out-of-quota tariffs. They say it could hurt American ranchers. The cattle industry also pushing back on that as well. And the president's goal really is immediate price cuts at the grocery store. That's what he said, that imported beef could be sold at about 25% below current market prices amid, a beef supply shortage while continued demand is still there. And so, it's going to take years to get the nation's cattle herd back to where it was around 2019, 2020, at about 96 million head versus the 86 million the industry reports today. So the president's plan is 300 metric tons of ground beef. So that equals about 661,000 pounds. So about 3% of our beef imports, or about 1.2 million head, they come from Mexico every year. So since last year, that parasite caused us to halt the cattle imports from Mexico, and that fell to about 200,000 head. So if you figure about 800 pounds per head, that's 800 million pounds of beef missing from our supply chain, 800 million pounds missing. The president wants to import 661,000 pounds. The current situation is basically this, Kevin. It's a conflict between the two groups. The ranchers, they want cattle prices high enough to make rebuilding the U.S. herd worthwhile, while sustaining their livelihoods. Consumers want affordable beef at the grocery store, and the government trying to thread the needle, trying to balance the food affordability issue with maintaining domestic production in an election year where division is power. So one would say that the ranchers have a legitimate argument. One would also say that consumers have a legitimate argument as well.
Jeff Manasso, we don't solve the problems. We just report them.
That's right.
Jeff, have a great day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, back to Chandler, who was, I don't know what you were doing. Good morning.
Hey, man, just got two more things for you. So the other thing, too, is you mentioned Jeff Manasso was an FM DJ way back in the day. So, Kev, the next time you're on vacation, it'd be, I think, really fun for us, the KID audience, would be imagine having Jeff Manasso, guest DJ as an FM DJ in your time slot, in your time off. I think that would be really cool. Two things to go back to the flock cameras and also the judicial system. When I hear Lars Larson talk, it's like, who's this guy talking to? I mean, he always gives the perfect establishment, police state line, backing up the reason for flock cameras, why they're so great. I try and stay close to the voters. This past weekend, I was working the Ada County GOP booth at the fair. And in my time there, I try and shut up and listen and let the voters tell you what they're thinking, what their experience is, never deny experience, and try and understand their perspective and how they're interpreting it. If you can do that and respond effectively, you'll win. So I did have, in the time I was working there, someone come up and they talked about their experience with flock cameras, whereby a blurry-ish image misread the first digit of a license plate in Las Vegas and claimed that was them. And it wasn't them. They weren't in Las Vegas. They were either here or Nebraska. And they spent months of time trying to prove their innocence about this, right? So, it's where's the justice in that? The aspect of why we need them with Lars Larson. Look, if I was going to cast Moscow Mailbag and I wanted a perfect Joe Adimoff, I'd pick him. The aspect of if the police need this tool, then why aren't we not talking about adding it to the car? You want to, the policeman's job is to scan and see license plate. This could enhance his ability to do that. So put the flock camera on the police car. He uses it as a police vehicle while he's doing his job, not 24/7, not doing all this other crap, not doing anything. That seems to be like a fair solution, which we're not hearing from Lars. Regarding the issue with the justice system, it sounds like there's a profit motivation with our legal system, and that's it. Take the profit out. If we made our judicial system non-for-profit, we would eliminate the drive, desire, or need to excessively enforce as a revenue stream. That would go away. So the speed traps, the excessive enforcement, a lot of these problems and issues that we're having with our court system are due to it being a for-profit and a revenue stream for a lot of places. And if we made it non-for-profit and it was actually more transparent, we might actually learn about how much this costs to deliver justice. And we might be able to come up with some great free market alternatives. So one of which is, you know how much a judge costs in India? Like $12,000. We're paying what? Pension, profit, all this for our judges here. You know, there's a global price for justice, which somehow our bureaucrats in government are immune from. I mean, there are great options that are out there. Like, why can't we outsource it? Why can't we get contractors, just like people who work at HP and Micron, to deliver justice? I'm sure if they had to compete in the marketplace, it would totally change in a way that would benefit us, save us money, and deliver better justice. So there you go, man. That's what I got for you today. Any questions?
Yeah, what was it like? Are people optimistic at the Ada County Republican booth there?
You know, so here's the thing that I find concerning is nobody's doing literature. Jim Risch doesn't have any lit. I'd like to do some lit drops. He doesn't have any lit. Phil McGrain doesn't have any lit. Simpson doesn't have any lit. Brad Little had a really great door knocker, and he had that at the booth with some great bumper stickers. I picked one up for Lee Joe. If you want one, Kev, I got one for you too.
Sure.
You know, so it's sort of like the people that are higher up that might drive turnout, you know, they just seem to be like, they're just sleepwalking it through. You go to the Democrat booth, everything in their booth is literature for candidates. You know, this candidate for here, this candidate for there. You know, they're focused on getting their voters out and getting them to show up. I don't know if I'm seeing it so much on the GOP side. Hats off to Brad Little. You know, you can't give these people an inch. And the fact that he made these great door hangers, the fact that Brad Little has them available at the booth, the fact that he is campaigning and doing literature and running a campaign as you would expect, I think that will really lead to great results for him and prove, hey, don't even think about it, Democrats. I got this race. So I'm worried about the other races because the other candidates just don't seem to be doing these basic accepted things for a race. I don't know if turnout's going to be great. So, you know, this initiative too. I mean, the messaging, look, if the messaging is there, I don't know if it's unified enough to come across for Prop 1 to go down. I don't know. I mean, Theo's right about that. I think a lot of people are sleepwalking into what's going to happen. But yeah, like I said, it's just, I don't know. I mean, like, people don't seem super motivated to come out. And, you know, let's be honest, the GOP's had 10 years to do something. And what have they done? They've let 20 million or more people in. They're here. They're not going away. The reason why it stopped is that now they got the cheap labor. If they let any more in, then the system would collapse. And, you know, the people with the second houses would have to really worry about peasants with pitchforks. So that's why it stopped.
I don't think there's, wait a minute, but back to the peasant. I don't think that there's a fear of that. I don't think there's a fear of anything. There's no one has ever made an example out of anyone. The closest that happened were two incidences in 2018, the governor's race, and in 2014, the governor's race. And you had the establishment candidates win in both cases. And until you make an example out of someone, you're not going to do that. And we could talk about, you know, property taxes this, property taxes that. But to your point, I don't see a lot of movement. Life is good for Republicans here in Idaho. Maybe you're paranoid. Maybe hold on. Maybe you're just paranoid.
Yeah, I don't know. As a former resident of San Francisco, as a former resident of Colorado, as a former resident of New Mexico, as a former resident of Illinois, yeah, I've seen what can happen, and I see where it's going. And you know, it's so frustrating for people like me. Is I don't care about Ukraine. I don't care about Israel. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about the scene issue. I care about the Democrats who've taken over all the states and keep winning, and who will, you know, kill babies.
Well, I mean, what Democrat is taking over here?
Mayor McClain's done a pretty good job of
Joe Biden.
Yeah, she's done a good job. You know, there's one GOP person on the city council. Like, she seems unbeatable. The city council is solid. You know, some people think the Mayor Meridian's kind of squishy, and Meridian's now going to start playing the who's more liberal, Boise or Meridian.
Joe Biden.
You know, the demographics too. If you look at it, there's gentrification. My district's getting more and more Democrat. You know, a lot of the GOP voters are older. There's the silent generation 1. The silent generation 2 is more liberal. The boomers are dying at about 10,000 a day. And so eventually that's gone, and you're going to have millennials and all these other things. The GOP is in no position to take advantage of that. So, you're not giving people enough reason to show up and vote. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like, the vote for the DSA, this is socialism. It's people that are fed up. The system doesn't work. It's not working for them. They can't afford a house. Can't afford to live. can't afford to put gas in their car, can't take a vacation, and so they want something else. And so that the only people who are offering some talking to their pain and giving solutions are on the left. The yuck conservatives and the Fox Boomer con, they're just reactionary. What's your plan, buddy? Like, what's your plan to fix this, make it better, do it better? How are you gonna where's the I feel your pain on the? It's like the $20 burrito. Shut up and pay $20 for a burrito.
Well, okay, hold on. Tell me, in Idaho, who's the Republican that conveys that message?
Joe Wold, but he ain't on the ballot.
I get that, but I'm talking about an elected Republican. And you're saying you're at the Ada County booth, hanging out, having a good time, and there's no literature, there's no nothing. Nobody's working. It's all gravy and biscuits.
I mean, there's some literature. My literature is there because I am on the ballot. There was some literature. There was some stuff there, but not to what I'd expect for on-year election. Not to the level I'd expect. So. Well, I mean, really, finally, I don't really see any liberal reason. I mean, look, to get rid of the congressmen, you would have to have, some type of blue tsunami, that would come in and get rid of Senator Risch. I don't see that happening. The lady going against Congressman Fulcher, she runs all the time and she's running nowhere. They don't have, Todd Achilles may have a message, but he doesn't have a political party. And the problem with Risch is he's going to be 89 when if he finishes his term. He's going to be 89. Why can't you pass the buck to somebody under 40 and get ready? Like, why do you have? Why are
you engaging in ageism? That's illegal. Number one, age, to discriminate against somebody because of their age, and number two, Chandler, I would argue to keep Senator Risch there because he's a senior guy. You start all over, and congratulations, you've elected Senator Nobody. That's the game we're playing.
Okay, well then I guess it's just like the South Carolina thing. I guess the Republican
Tell me who's
Party
better than Senator Risch.
Tell me who's better than Senator Risch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, give somebody a chance.
Well, give us all a chance. How about this lady?
Joe Biden.
Doug in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin. I was listening to it as much as I can this morning. On when you had, is it Peter Wool?
Theo Wold, yes.
I mean, listening to what he was saying about the election and the midterms and stuff, and these people, you better wake up. You think that Trump's been doing a bad job? Who are you going to put in there? The Nazi communists? Kevin, these people, they're absolutely young, stupid. They don't want to work. They've never worked. They've never got dirty. All they want to do is steal from you. That's all they want to do. They think that communism, and it ain't socialism, it's communism. They think that stuff is just fine and dandy, and that's what it is they want to steal from you. They don't want to work. They think it's owed to them. You get out and start going around these kids and the age of like AOC and all that, they don't know what they're doing. They ain't got a freaking clue except they want to be able to freaking run and be in front of the news media and think they can freaking run a country. They can't even run their own lives, Kevin. People, you better wake up. I mean, I'm really scrapping the end of down at the bottom of the barrel, but I know what the other one is. And all you got to do, people, all you got to do is look back 80 years, 60 years, look all around the world and see what this has done. Just look at Cuba. If you people vote this thing in, you're going to get exactly what you want. And they will freaking demolish this country, and they will kill millions of Americans, period. Absolutely kill millions of us. So that's what I got to say. You better start finding the Lord in your life, and you better start paying attention to what this country was founded on.
And it wasn't laziness, and it wasn't theft. It wasn't any of that. So, Kevin, keep up the good work, and I'll see you later. God bless you.
All right. God bless you, Doug. Appreciate that. Our great friend Doug in Mountain Home, Dylan's favorite guy. Dylan loves Doug. And by the way, we love our friends at T. Mazda in the Pre-Owned Superstore. They're doing something special for Labor Day they've never done before. They're stretching their annual $5 car sale to 12 days and 2 big weekends. It starts this weekend when T moves all their new and used vehicles to the big parking lot at the old Kmart. I know Subaru Jerry will be doing his very best to help them. That's at Karcher and the Boulevard in Nampa. And there's a reason Team's $5 car sale is one of their biggest events of the year. Buy new or used with just $5 down. Then make no payments for 5 months. Get a $2,000 Visa gift card with qualifying purchase, plus a $250 gas card. Got a trade during the $5 sale. Team will give you up to 130% of book value. Even the worthless clunkers get a $2,000 minimum trade allowance. So buy a new Mazda plug-in hybrid, trade up to a better pre-owned car, get your first vehicle, or find a better truck for work or play. Whatever you need, $5 down gets it all started. Don't miss Team's 12-day Labor Day $5 car sale starting this weekend at Exit 33, Karcher on the Boulevard in Nampa. Look for the big white tent and 5-it at Team. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. Before that, though, we have Hakeem Jeffries giving us a preview of what to expect if and when the Democrats take over the House.
Nobody's getting a pass because we're determined to make sure, beginning on day one, that we hold every single member of the Trump cartel accountable, beginning on day one.
Well, beginning on day one, you mean if the Democrats become the majority in the House of Representatives and you potentially could be the Speaker. Is that what you're suggesting? On day one of that event, you will begin to hold everyone in the Trump cartel, your words, accountable?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that if folks have been shortchanging the American people, screwing from the American people, yes.
And there we have it. Hakeem the Dream saying you're going to have congressional hearings, contempt of Congress. You think Dr. Fauci's deal was tough. You imagine what they'll do to the president's sons. You imagine what they would do to Kristi Noem, Corey Lewandowski, all these folks. This is a crazy, crazy world we live in. By the way, here you have the president talking about Dolly Parton with our own Glenn Beck.
It's never been done before. Why'd you do it for her?
Is that was never done for an entertainer before? Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Because
never.
We've done this, lowering, but as I understand it, I've heard that from a couple of people. I'm a little surprised, but she was unique. I mean, she was amazing. And to lose her, it's like you lose a member of the family. You know, we all knew her so well. I knew her a little bit. She wasn't a very political person. She really liked me, I will tell you. But she also wanted to stay very, she was of the opinion, the 50%, who needs to lose. I don't think it's 50. I think it's probably 20% of the fans, okay, not 50. But she was a great person, and she was just a nice person. I liked her a lot. And I thought it was a natural thing to lower the flags.
Yeah, there we have it, lowering the flags for Dolly, the President of the United States, with our own Glenn Beck. And at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, of course, you'll hear Glenn today after Lars Larson. But I go back to what Hakeem Jeffries has said, and that he said that he's going after the administration. There can be no greater reason to keep Republicans in the House and the Senate than that one.
They are one of the worst countries in the world to deal with. And this has gone on for many years.
Wait. Can we say this? I love Canadians and Canada.
Correct.
I do not like their administration.
Okay, well,
Right?
the administration and the previous administration too is terrible.
Yes.
But they have taken advantage of the United States for many decades, actually. They charge tariffs that are unbelievable, like on milk, 400%, and on like. And I just said, we're taking them on. And I took them on at the beginning, but we had so many other things to do because the country was a mess. But I said, we're going to take them on. We're going to stop it. And you saw the Lake Ontario. People thought I was kidding, but maybe I wasn't, because the last one you saw was the Gulf of Mexico, is Gulf of America.
I know.
So now we have a Gulf and we have a lake, okay? It's very simple. But look, I don't want to go into great detail because it's maybe boring to people, but to me it's not boring. They charge tariffs. They take advantage of us as though they were a state, and they're not a state. And they've taken our car industry, and they've taken our agriculture industry.
Yeah.
The farmers can't sell anything in there because the tariffs are so enormous, and yet they want to sell in us without any tariffs. So I had a deal that was a pretty good deal, quite good, because they're afraid that I won't do any business. In other words, we won't trade. They don't have anything that we have to have. Okay, we can get by. I mean, there are a couple of things that would make it a little inconvenient, but we could get them elsewhere. And it's time to teach Canada you can't do this anymore. We lose $60 billion, and really more than that, $60 billion a year with Canada.
Mr. President,
we can't do that.
There we have it, Glenn Beck with the president, a preview of what they'll be talking about tonight. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They say stop freaking, call Beacon today. We do appreciate Beacon Plumbing and all that they do, whether it's emergency work, plumbing, sewer, heating, electrical. They will help you. By the way, 24 hours, 7 days a week emergency services. We've used those at our house again and again and again. And I will tell you, I can't go on and on about just how great the service is with our friends at Beacon Plumbing, beaconplumbing.com. Call them today, and you'll love them. And like I said, we had some issues. It's embarrassing. We had some issues where the seal on our toilet was put in bad by the builder all these years, and it was my dad that figured it out. And I go, what does he know? And when they came over to take a look at our HVAC, because it's been a tough year when we're talking about running the air conditioner, always got to make sure that you're good to go for the seasons here in Idaho. They said, let's take a look at this. They came out, they took a look at it. We had to have some things done. And again, we appreciate our friends at Beacon Plumbing. They do say, stop freaking, call Beacon today. Locally owned and operated. Their number 208-516-2061. 516-2061. Book your service today, whether it's drains, electrical, heating, AC, plumbing. Beacon Plumbing can help you. Concern in Emmett with Kevin Miller at 580-KIDO. Hello, Concern.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, it's too bad about Dolly Parton. What a great person. What a great person. She should be a light for other people to look towards the way she lived her life. But Hakeem Jeffers, it's like, so what do we got to do now? When Trump leaves office, he's going to have to do a blanket pardon all of his people, and then the people complain about that. But they didn't complain about Joe Biden doing it. These people are just so purposely ignorant. I just can't believe it. I just love what Doug said. He was so dead on, about it all. The people, I think about John Kennedy saying, ask not what your country can do for you. That's a Democrat. Ask what you can do for the country. And what we have is a generation that is not like that. It's just the exact opposite. What can this country do for me? What can I get out of it? Not hard work, not any kind of sacrifice or anything. But they're going to end up having to sacrifice a big time because of, their attitude and what they're doing. It's just like Cuba. They whine about where they're at, but they put Fidel Castro in, and they put, all these governments in, but they sit there and whine about it afterwards. These people just can't see because they don't want to know about the history, and they don't want to read it, And Doug's so right about, finding the Lord in your life. It's like, it cracks me up to hear people talk about, outer space people, hybrids and everything else. They'll believe in that, but they won't believe in Jesus Christ. That is the most documented person across the entire world. Everybody knows who he was, but yet, and all the facts of that, but yet we want to believe in hybrids and an alien star and stuff like that. Just where's the wisdom? And you get older, you're going to meet your maker, whether you believe it or not. Just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it's not there. But we are eternal beings. Our souls are eternity, and we're going to have to answer. So when you get older, you better start thinking about what you're going to leave behind, because it's all going to be left behind. No one's ever seen anybody at a funeral with a U-Haul dragging all their money and stuff with them. It's over with. But like Dolly Parton, it's going to be well done. You showed your heart. You helped the needy, and that's in the Bible. But just God bless your show. I don't want to get too preachy, but it's just a shame that we've lost our history, and we just purposely refuse to listen to it and what it was, and try to change it to what it wasn't. But God bless your show, Kevin. Just love what Doug said, and just continue doing what you're doing. That's the best we can do.
God bless. God bless, concern. Appreciate you. 580 KIDO. Let's get you to work the right way. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studio. Traffic still heavy and steady coming out of Canyon County into Ada County as you go eastbound. Working an accident in downtown Boise, 9th and Myrtle. You be slowed as you come off the connector there. Vincent Lumber is your cedar factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Vincent Lumber, now in Kuna and online at vincentlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on
reflecting on the life of Dolly Parton. And we played this a little earlier. And again, the audience changes over quite a bit, but never too much to talk a little bit about Dolly and her. Well, I mean, she had so many iconic songs, but when Whitney Houston does one of your songs, not much bigger than that. Can't be bigger than that. When you think of Whitney Houston, who we lost too soon, and Dolly Parton's song, I Will Always Love You, maybe you didn't know this, was originally performed and written by Dolly Parton.
It's my song, but it's most definitely her record. It didn't sound like that when I had it. She made me rich. I've never been the kind of writer that's always looked for a perfect song. I write because I have to. I write because I love to, and because I want to. There are certain songs, though, that I do write. I think, ooh, now that is good. I Will Always Love You has the simple melody, and it's easy to sing. It also fits so many types of things. Like people tell me, we played this at the hospital when my daddy was dying. He loved the song. They played this at my graduation when my son was going off to college. In fact, Elvis' manager wanted to have the publishing on that song, and I wouldn't allow it because it was my most important copyright. It broke my heart because Elvis didn't get to sing it, but I had to hold on to it. Elvis loved this song. In fact, Priscilla had told me that when she and Elvis were leaving the courthouse after they divorced, he was singing that to her walking out. So she said he did love it.
That was one of the great career decisions Dolly Parton made in her life, because Elvis was Elvis, for God's sake. And she said no, and that demonstrated her astuteness as a businesswoman. That was a great chess move.
Thought is the most unbelievable thing I'd ever heard. I'd never even believed my little song could be done like that. People say, well, she claims it's her record. I said, it is her record. It's my song, but it's most definitely her record. It didn't sound like that when I had it. She made me rich.
Boy, one of the rare celebrities, rare people that had no enemies. And again, people have been calling in all morning long at 580-5436, 580-KIDO to give their thoughts on Dolly Parton. Married for many, many years, gave so much to the community. Entrepreneur, Dollywood. It's just fascinating when you think of this legend. And by the way, was getting ready to, she was getting ready to perform in Vegas. And having lived a little in Nashville, that Vanderbilt Medical Center is one of the best in the world, certainly one of the best in the country. But alas, we lost Dolly. But Dolly continues to resonate.
I often make jokes and say, I am comfortable in my own skin no matter how far I've stretched it at times. But I am, I know who I am, and I don't try to be nobody else. And if that ain't good enough for you, too bad. But I can walk in any room knowing I'm going in as myself, and that'll just have to do. I don't try to be anything different than what I am. I try to be who I am. And I've always said the one thing you could say about me is I'm a very professional Dolly Parton. I don't try to tell other people how to do, how to be, but I know who I am. And I'm very self-contained with what my faith is, what my beliefs are, and what I feel my talent is, and my personality, what I think I can do, you know, with that. And that has served me well through the years. I don't try to be different than I am at any time. And when I look at my job, I mean, I'm thankful that I got to see my dreams come true, but I was an artist. I think of myself as an artist. You know, I write the songs, I want to sing them, I want to perform them, and all that stuff is all kind of rolled into one. But it never takes away from who I am as a person and my God-given gifts and how grateful I am that God has given me, you know, the opportunities as well as the talent. So I stay true to that, and I never get too far out of line if I just kind of stay anchored within me and do what I do best.
Lessons from Dolly, if you will, on being yourself and being comfortable being yourself.
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living. Barely getting by, it's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy and you let it. 9 to 5, for service and devotion. You would think that I would deserve a fair promotion. Want to move ahead.
There you have it. And a message from Dolly Parton's family.
Hey, everyone. My name is Brian Seaver, son of Cassie Parton, and I'm representing the Parton and Owens family today, announcing the passing of my Aunt Dolly, Rebecca Parton Dean, sister, sis, Aunt Granny to one generation, and Gigi to the next. This video announcement is something Dolly asked of me years ago, before I fully absorbed it as a future reality. As her head of security for more than 2 decades, a role my father Larry held before me, I have imagined the heaviness of this moment, but haven't truly felt it until now. It is an honor that is mixed with absolute pride and great sadness. But sadness lies with us, not with Dolly. Dolly has lived in the light and is in the arms of Jesus, surely met by Carl, her parents, and countless others who have watched her and longed for her to meet them in the heavens. I first went on the road with Dolly as a kid, getting a taste of the road life in the early 1980s. Dolly opened doors not just for me, but for her entire family to reach the potential we didn't even know was possible. Dolly also opened doors for generations of singers, songwriters, musicians, and dreamers from every walk of life and across every continent. By her example, we believed that anything was possible. She never saw a door she couldn't open, and the doors she opened made and changed history. My family and I have shared a lifetime of beautiful memories with Dolly, but so have you. She has always been on your television, your record player, your CD, and on your phone playlist, becoming an extended part of your family, whether you liked it or not. Our family and the team she has entrusted with her legacy will work diligently to ensure her spirit will live with us forever. Dolly was a farmer, just like her daddy. He farmed the soil, she farmed songs and happiness. Dolly called me and said she wants to rest in a beautiful bed of plush cotton because after a life wearing heavy rhinestones, she finally deserves to be comfortable and have some rest. Rest in peace, Aunt Dolly, Aunt Granny, Gigi. May God bless Dolly Parton, and may God bless you all. She will always love you.
Boy, golly. Not a dry eye in the house after that, is there? Not a dry eye in the house. Again, one of the few celebrities that had no enemies. Amazing. And when you hear Dolly Parton, she's like that friend that was always your mentor. somebody at work, at home, wherever, that could always give you that great piece of advice, right? You know, it's back to school time. It's also first car time for a lot of families. Maybe you've got a teenager driving to high school or a kid heading off to college, or you want something affordable, reliable, and safe. And financing that helps a first-time car buyer start by building good credit. Where do you go? How about our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru in the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore? They've got the kind of cars families are looking for, like a 2015 Subaru Outback for around $15,000, a 2014 Subaru Forester for $16,000, or a really clean Chevy Equinox for $17,000. And every vehicle goes through the Treasure Valley Service Center, so you can feel good about what you're sending your kids down the road with, right? Their finance team, I know them very well, also knows how to help first-time buyers establish credit while keeping the payment affordable, even as low as $250 a month. Let me repeat that, as low as $250 a month. And Rob gets it. He's bought cars for his own kids, so he knows exactly what parents are looking for, and those are the kinds of vehicles he keeps in stock. So take your kid first car shopping at Treasure Valley Subaru, the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore, Treasure Valley Trucks, and the Treasure Valley Service Center, all together at the Idaho Center Auto Mall and online at treasurevalleysubaru.com. That's treasurevalleysubaru.com. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you as we continue to remember the great Dolly Parton. Lee Greenwood saying Dolly made his day.
The entertainment business will never have another Dolly Parton, and we miss her terribly. I'm heartbroken. I'm almost without words. And God, Dolly, we're sure going to miss you.
You know, in Tennessee, it's not just Nashville or Memphis, but politics, media, and music all mix in. Here is Senator Marsha Blackburn. We see her on Fox all the time.
She knew that was a way to help them expand their world and to dream those dreams.
And there we have it. We'd love to get more of your thoughts on Dolly and Dollywood and Pigeon Forge and country music and 9 to 5 and Kenny Rogers and just so many great memories of the one, the only Dolly Parton. 580 KIDO. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. I kind of feel like I lost a friend. She was one of those kind of people. One of the funny things I remember, she was getting an award of some sort, and she always, her ability to self-deprecate was just ingenious because she got the punches in before anybody else could. And I thought that was a really brilliant move on her part. But anyway, she got up out of her seat to go up on the stage, and her dress, which was pretty tight, split in the front, and somebody graciously handed her like a mink stole, which she just scooped right up. She got up there and she kind of giggled and she says, "Well, I suspect y'all saw that." She says, "My daddy always told me not to try to stuff 10 pounds of mud in a 5-pound bag." And of course the audience went crazy. And then she said, another time I remember she said, "The reason my waist is so small, things don't grow real good in the shade."
You know, she made us laugh in that self-deprecating humor. Just amazing.
She was a brilliant mind. Having such a humble beginning, it didn't stop her. She didn't even know she was poor because in her mind she wasn't. And she took what she had and she made a huge stamp on this world, and I hope that it lasts a long time. Genuine as all get out, just everyday people is what she was. And when I saw her on The View, oh my gosh, and Joy Behar, pathetic thing that she is, tried to run her down, and Dolly just kept smiling at her, and she says, "Well, Dolly," she just could disarm anybody with her personality and her charm.
Yeah, she did, and it was such a different world where you earned it, and it wasn't clicks and everything else. It was humor. It was intelligence.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, that was my 2 cents.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. Don't be a stranger.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Again, more on the passing of Dolly Parton. And then you think about Dolly compared to just some of the musical icons that have passed. And, so different, so unique. I mean, how many people, back to what Eyes Wide Open talked about, here you have someone who was just self-deprecating. And it wasn't self-deprecating deprecating to get themselves over. It was just like you were hanging out with someone who made you feel better about yourself. And obviously, this is a young lady that accomplished so much.
Known for her songwriting, unique fashion, and over-the-top personality, Dolly Parton was not only a music icon, but a trailblazer. Born on January 19, 1946 in Pittman Center, Tennessee, to Robert Lee Parton and Avie Lee Owens. Parton was the fourth of 12 kids. She grew up in a one-room cabin out in the Smoky Mountains. Early love for music led her to begin writing songs in grade school, and she made her first appearance on the Grand Ole Opry in 1959 at only 13 years old. The day after she graduated from high school, Parton packed her bags and moved to Nashville to start chasing her musical dreams. She soon married her husband, Carl Dean, in 1966. They remained together for nearly 59 years until he died in 2025. Parton's first shot at stardom came when she joined the Porter Wagoner Show in 1967.
I was lucky that I got a chance to be that exposed to that many people at one time, and that was really what kind of shot me up there and got me a good grip.
While on the show, Parton decided to pursue her career as a solo artist, and in 1971 debuted her first #1 solo hit, Joshua, followed by other chart toppers like Love is Like a Butterfly, I Will Always Love You, and the legendary Jolene.
Jolene, 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 Jolene. I don't know how you're doing on the inside, honey, but your hair's just holding up beautiful.
Parton was introduced to a new audience while acting in films including Steel Magnolias and 9 to 5. Over the decades, she earned many honors and accolades, including her induction into the Grand Ole Opry in 1969 and the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1999. Also awarded the Library of Congress Living Legend Medal in 2004. And in a Nashville theater in 2025, she debuted Dolly, a true original musical based on her life. Parton was known for her business and humanitarian work. Her theme park in Tennessee, Dollywood, opened in 1986, and her charity, Imagination Library, provides over 1 million free books to kids every single month. Parton even developed a museum dedicated to her life inside a Dolly-inspired hotel in Nashville. With more than 60 albums and over 24 #1 hits, Dolly Parton lived her life not straying far from her roots and always keeping a positive outlook on life and her career.
And I can look back on a lot of things that's happening. I think, oh, thank you, God. At least my life seems to have made a difference and to have meant something to a lot of people.
Alexis McAdams, Fox News.
Boy. And coming from humble origins, but maintaining her positivity. Amazing. The life, the legacy of Dolly Parton. 580 KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studios. Traffic now on the freeway. We have an accident just past the 10-mile overpass. So look for that on the left-hand side. Move to the right if you're already in that slowdown and working an accident downtown at 9th and Myrtle. Save money with Perfect Plumbing, Heating, and Air and get your annual AC tune-up for $49. Call or schedule online at callperfectnow.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Well, I still can't get over Dolly Parton and the reaction that continues to flow throughout the nation. And, of course, right here at 580-5436, 580 KIDO.
Dolly is, one of the greatest icons America has ever produced. But for me, what marked my life was what her life was marked by. And that was authentic kindness, genuine generosity, and a woman who really loved Jesus.
Natalie Grant, Christian music singer. Coming up, a live report from Jared Halpern in Washington, D.C. We'll get his thoughts. Remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to 580 KIDO. We'll talk a little bit more about data centers and Hakeem Jeffries. He's getting ready. Is he going to have a party, or are we going to spoil it? Plus, a massive Facebook lawsuit settlement protecting children. Those stories and more next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. 580 KIDO. If you miss our next guest, you can always catch him on our rebroadcast of the podcast, available everywhere, including on the YouTube. Joining us now, Jared Halpern. And Jared, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, like the rest of us and the president, and like you, mourning the death of Dolly.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I was thinking a lot about this the other day, last night, and I can't think of another American who was so beloved that transcended. It didn't matter what your politics were, what your background was, where you grew up, your geography. Everybody loved her. And that's such a rare quality in our divided country right now, that you have an individual who just across the spectrum was beloved for one reason or another, whether it was her talent, her songwriting, her philanthropy, being known as the book lady. She was a remarkable human being, and fitting that President Trump, I think, immediately had flags lowered to half staff. Seeing that the political folks that weighed in, I mean, again, it crossed the entire there's no Republican Democratic divide with Dolly Parton, right? And that's, I feel like in this day and age, just an increasingly rare occurrence.
Yeah, and just the scope, not only a star, singer, writer, producer, entrepreneur, builder, philanthropist, television star.
She did it all, and seemed so comfortable in her own skin. Again, I think something that's rare these days. And just learning more about her background, growing up, she described it dirt poor in rural East Tennessee, the Smoky Mountains, 11 or 12 siblings. But, knew what she wanted to do and made it happen. And then made sure that she opened a bunch of doors for anybody else that wanted to make their dreams come true. I mean, that imagination library, I think, has given out something like 500 million books. That's an extraordinary legacy just in and of itself to young children.
No, and I'm just amazed by it. You're surrounded by a lot of people that do what they love. You do what you love. And, the idea that they continue to work. We talk about that with politicians, but here you have Dolly that was going to go to Vegas. And I know you're not a shrink, but I mean, the ability to just keep working.
I mean, if you love your work, it doesn't feel like work. And I think that was the attitude. I think she'd expressed that in a couple of interviews. She was once asked, why don't you just retire? And she said, I wouldn't even know what that is. And again, I think it's because she loved what she did. She seemed to be driven by this idea of continuing to give back and find ways to make an impact. I was listening to, I usually listen to some country music stations driving around anyway, but last night, driving home, it was really something to hear all of these, especially young artists, talk about the influence that Dolly had, the advice that Dolly gave. Sometimes unsolicited, she would reach out to young artists. I mean, that's pretty remarkable for somebody like her. She is, nobody would have blamed her if she decided to spend the last years of her life just, back at home, relaxing, enjoying her fortune. But that didn't seem to be what Dolly Parton was interested in. And you're right, that you see that a lot, I think, in Congress, sometimes to its detriment. Obviously, a criticism of Congress is that people stay too long and they're too old and all of that. But again, I think for so many people in elected office, it feels something more than a job. It's a calling. They're too active. Their minds are active. They don't want to stop. And certainly that was true of Dolly Parton, wasn't it?
We could also say that's true for the president, really.
Yeah. Both 80 years old too.
Yeah.
and he's as active as ever. And again, I think, some people are just built differently. I don't know if I'll be working at 80 years old. I am a little bit more than half that age, and I wake up tired a lot. So we'll see. But I think that, there's probably some genetics involved. But again, I think if you enjoy the work, you feel a calling to the work. It doesn't feel like work, and you do it much longer than a lot of other people. And certainly Dolly was one of those folks, right? I mean, you're right. And she had like concerts on the book, I think. So that's extraordinary. 80 years old and still performed as well as ever, right? I mean, still got, the rhinestones and the voice never left her. Willie Nelson's still touring. So, I mean, my advice, go out and see these folks. Because we don't know how much longer we're gonna be living on the same earth with them.
Jared Halpern, well, I guess we'll let you out on that one. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Take care.
Take care. All right, coming up next, Mark, the watchdog of Eagle. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
Good morning, sir. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Dolly Parton. She was a true American icon, just like apple pie and baseball. And, you look at today's singers, the pop rock artists, the hip hop, the rap ones, and the girls these days a lot of them look like street corner sluts with no class. Dolly had class. She was a class act in herself and really represented true Americana. That's pretty much all I have to say on that, Kevin. I did want to mention, because the flock cameras seem to be a daily topic here at KIDO on your show. I sent you from Breitbart yesterday, 4 police department employees arrested on charges of misusing flock cameras. This is not the first time I've seen stories like this. It was one where some prosecutor back east was using flock cameras to track her boyfriend. And there's a website. I sent you this too. You're a bad boy, Kevin. I know you're not looking at my emails, because here's one that would fit the bill here for you, and your listening audience here at KIDO. It's a website. This was from Breitbart. Have I been flocked? Website lets you check if police search your car using flock camera system. And I can send it to you again, but it's called Have I Been Flocked? It's a website. You click on that, put in your license plate, and it's a system that lets you know if the flock system has been, used on your license plate. And if it's in a person's license plate appears in their database. So it was built through FOIA records or public records request, and organizers caution that some information may be outdated or incomplete, but it's something you need to check out. Real quick on data centers. I sent you also a story just last week. It was, you're talking about the data centers themselves and what's going on. There was a Kentucky mother and daughter who refused $26 million offer for their family farm from an AI data center developer back east in Maysville, Kentucky. The one daughter was offered for 463 acres, Delcia Bear at $48,000 per acre, and 71 acres from her mother, Ida Huddleston, at $60,000 per acre. But the woman originally, both these ladies agreed to sell, and then they learned that their family farm of nearly 200 years would have hosted a data center, and their answer changed to no. So that's kind of interesting little thing to kind of know out there. But that's pretty much all, I have to say. It's a shame when we lose people like Dolly Parton. And again, they're true Americana and what really represents America, and not some of the trash that we get out there, these so-called entertainers who they don't have the class, the etiquette. They don't even come close to somebody like her. You have a great day there at KIDO, Kevin Miller.
All right. God bless our friend Mark, the watchdog of Eagle, remembering Dolly Parton. More on that in a minute. We do want to remind you as well, the big Meta suit. Apparently, Meta has agreed to cop a plea. And it shows you the Trump administration and how they're bringing people to justice. This has been going on for quite some time. But when you get a big settlement, so be it. Here's our own Tanya J. Powers at 580 KIDO.
The landmark settlement cuts short a federal trial in California over claims made by 29 states that Meta's Facebook and Instagram platforms were designed to addict children, among other claims. The settlement for Meta to pay up to $17 billion also includes an agreement to make major changes to its products. Those include daily usage limits and nighttime blocks for users under 18, as well as bans on features that exacerbate mental health issues. Meta denies wrongdoing in the agreement. California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey were among the states that sued Meta in 2023, and the settlement ends the trial, which was expected to see Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg testify before a jury in federal court. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Yeah, that wasn't really going to happen. That wasn't really going to happen at all. And yet now they've settled $17 billion to prevent Zuckerberg from being on the stand. More on that in a minute. Before that, the Canadians say they're going to beat us up.
Here at the White House today, for once, there is less focus on the Iran war and more focus on the trade war, where leaders are retaliating against recent new tariffs against them with some big new tariffs of their own on U.S. products. 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum products from the U.S., 25% on dairy, fish, and seafood from the U.S., and 15% on select farm equipment and machinery. And the president also now hoping to pull a Gulf of Mexico on Canada. He posted on Truth Social, the United States is giving serious consideration to changing the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America, and that we don't expect to be doing much business with Ontario any longer.
And then the people in Ontario say we're going to cut off your electricity. And so the fun begins and continues in Trump land, if you will. But it might not all be fun for the president.
This is one of the reasons Democrats winning across the country in November is so urgent. If we take the House and we take the Senate, we can impeach and remove RFK Jr. And if we don't, he's going to have 2 more years of unfettered access to America's public health infrastructure. And that will be disastrous.
Now, she's not your typical loon.
Joe Biden.
But she is a doctor. She's running as a Democrat in South Carolina. Good luck to her. But there's the plan. It's not like let's all get along. It's going to be payback time. So the top 3 stories we are talking about, the Canadians are mad. Meta is paying a bunch of money, and the Democrats plot their revenge. Let's get to number 1 here, where we're talking about Meta. You know, I think on one hand, I really admire people that use these platforms, these means of distributions, to get out and to do things. And hey, I've got 75,000 followers, and digital marketing, and what do they call it, affiliate marketing, and all sorts of ways to reach people. It has really broadened the message in some aspects of both conservatism and liberalism, and it's wonderful. But the problem with being online, and the problem that a lot of people have with it, is you have the potty mouths. You have everybody being a tough guy. You have people saying and swearing and doing everything else. In fact, it's funny. I always have a joke around the office here at the broadcast center. And I always say, if Facebook were real, you would, reply how you really feel. Hey, what do you think of this? I think it stinks. Nobody does that because nobody wants to be mean. Of course, when it comes to politics, everybody wants to be mean. When it comes to disagreeing with someone, you can't disagree without being disagreeable. And that Meta has decided to take one for the team. They were worried about Zuck getting cross-examined. The idea that the jiu-jitsu guy would have to explain things. Nobody likes that. And that's the brilliance usually of plaintiff litigations. And by the way, when you have, 29 states, you're not going to be able to bleed them dry. You're not going to be able to run out the clock. You're not going to be able to do anything except take your lumps. And that's really what, lawsuits are about. Discovery. Case in point, Boise State left the Mountain West. They sued. Everybody sued. The Pac-12 sued. Sued. Everybody sued. And then when the judge said to the Mountain West, you're going to have to reveal your emails in discovery, then everybody decided to settle. Nobody wanted the internal emails to determine who colluded with whom. What were the ideas involved in, if somebody leaves, we're going to hit them with this. Nobody likes that. So couple that by a gazillionth, and here you have Meta, still, to me, the most powerful influential company when it comes to social media. Sure, you can have your TikTok and your Instagram and everything else, but really, people love the book. And you're going to say, well, Kevin Miller, it's the old people that love the book. The old people still run things. Well, Kevin, aren't you an old person? Yeah, I'm an outlier of an old person. I don't run anything. I barely run this show. Think about that for a moment, though. Facebook admitting $17 billion worth of damages. Now they're going to turn it off. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just turn it off for all of ourselves? We used to laugh at people that were addicted to their phones. Wherever you go now, people are addicted to their phones. Maybe we should start something here in Idaho after the IG Fun Run where we just have a day without phones. And you have to pledge not to look at your phone. Sure, you could take phone calls. Sure, if there's an emergency, yes, by all means. On the other hand, do we really need to have the death scrolls, as they call it now, to fuel the AI, if you will? Speaking of that, on our website, KIDOtalkradio.com, we put together a couple of articles, one of them having to do with how to save money on your electric bills. It is the buzz of the supermarkets. It's the buzz everywhere. I was talking to Diana yesterday at Albertsons, not to be confused with my conversation with Nancy at Albertsons. A lot of Albertsons conversation, and Bert yesterday at Albertsons. A lot of conversations at Albertsons. And all of us said, was that the most expensive electric bill we've ever had? And yes, we did talk a little bit about the Channel 7 story where Idaho Power said, well, there's not enough water, so that increases your electric. We had bad air, that increases your electric. Probably have the data centers, that increases your electric. And then I thought to myself, well, we can't really bag on Idaho Power because great place to work and you're always going to have a job because we always need power. But what could we do? So I came up with a few ways of how to save money. And then I found out some more ways on how to save money. Some are very simple, some not very elaborate, but common sense. And since every little penny, even though we eliminated the penny, now they're talking about eliminating the nickel matters. Why not share that with you? So that is available on our website. And by the way, we do have a preview of the Warbird Roundup this weekend. So we got a big weekend coming up. We've got the Warbirds in Nampa. We have the Balloon Classic. We haven't really talked about that. Brought to you by so many local folks, including our friends at Micron and other places. But the idea of at Morrison Park, beginning on Wednesday, next Wednesday, it's Kids Day. Kids get up there and they get to talk to the pilots. Thursday, I think, is Diplomatic Immunity Day or something like that. I'll be there Thursday morning. So I'll be here, but I'll be there, but I'll be here, but I'll be there. And then Friday is the double whammy, the morning lineup, and then the night glow, which I'll be there as well. And then Saturday and Sunday, which is cool because you can go in, and Sunday, to me, is one of the hidden treasures of Balloon Fest or the Balloon Classic. I like to call it balloons, balloons, because people are either sleeping or at home and not working, so you can get in and out of Van Morrison Park. Complete details on our website, how to survive and thrive, the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic coming up next week. It is our final event of the year, and we do a lot of these events where we do our very best so people can go either free or at a very low price. You go to Canyon County Kids Fair, the Kids Expo, it is very affordable, $5 to get in, I believe. The garage sale, $5 to get in, plus all the vittles you can take if people want to give them to you. BMF, Boise Music Festival. By the way, again, chances are you can win free tickets. And the Balloon Classic, like I said, it's going to be a great day. So we hope to see everybody there coming up next week. And again, that's our last event of the year. We, however, are getting ready for Miller's Mission, but that's not till November. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Back to this deal with the Democrats.
This is one of the reasons Democrats winning across the country in November is so urgent. If we take the House and we take the Senate, we can impeach and remove RFK Jr. And if we don't, he's going to have 2 more years of unfettered access to America's public health infrastructure. And that will be disastrous.
She's an interesting person. She's a Democrat, articulate. She's also in one of the reddest states in the country, South Carolina. And I heard Trey Gowdy yesterday talking about this with Brett Baer on Fox at 580 KIDO. And Trey Gowdy's saying, I'm from South Carolina. I know these people. If Darlene Graham gets out of the primary, she'll win. But the other guy, he's a little bit too conservative. So looks like South Carolina will stay in the fold. Now, if we could only win North Carolina, thankfully, Idaho looks pretty good, just like our friends at Beacon Plumbing. Call them today at 208-516-2061. And we're not just talking about plumbing, although plumbing is very important. Whether you're talking about your heart or you're talking about your home, you could have plumbing problems, you could have electrical problems. It's good that you have either a cardiologist or a home service company that can help you with your plumbing, your drains, your electrical, your heating, your AC, and that's Beacon Plumbing. We have proudly used Beacon Plumbing. The employees come over. They're very friendly. They're very patient with us, with myself and Mrs. Miller, either at our home or on the phone. They do an outstanding job. Book your service today. Make sure your heat is ready to go for the cold. And, of course, the last 6 weeks of summer or 8 weeks of summer or 3 months of summer, make sure that your AC is working as well. 208-516-2061. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. 580 KIDO, your home for Fox News, is 580.
Wow, 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 wow.
No, it's 580.
Wow, 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 wow.
KIDO.
KIDO.
And I'm representing the Parton and Owens family today, announcing the passing of my Aunt Dolly, Rebecca Parton Dean. Sister, sis, Aunt Granny to one generation and Gigi to the next. This video announcement is something Dolly asked of me years ago, before I fully absorbed it as a future reality. As her head of security for more than 2 decades, a role my father Larry held before me, I have imagined the heaviness of this moment, but haven't truly felt it until now. It is an honor that is mixed with absolute pride and great sadness. But sadness lies with us, not with Dolly. Dolly has lived in the light and is in the arms of Jesus, surely met by Carl, her parents, and countless others who have watched her and longed for her to meet them in the heavens. I first went on the road with Dolly as a kid, getting a taste of the road life in the early 1980s. Dolly opened doors not just for me, but for her entire family to reach the potential we didn't even know was possible. Dolly also opened doors for generations of singers, songwriters, musicians, and dreamers from every walk of life and across every continent. By her example, we believed that anything was possible. She never saw a door she couldn't open, and the doors she opened made and changed history. My family and I have shared a lifetime of beautiful memories with Dolly, but so have you. She has always been on your television, your record player, your CD, and on your phone playlist, becoming an extended part of your family, whether you liked it or not. Our family and the team she has entrusted with her legacy will work diligently to ensure her spirit will live with us forever. Dolly was a farmer, just like her daddy. He farmed the soil, she farmed songs and happiness. Dolly called me and said she wants to rest in a beautiful bed of plush cotton because after a life wearing heavy rhinestones, she finally deserves to be comfortable and have some rest. Rest in peace, Aunt Dolly, Aunt Granny, Gigi. May God bless Dolly Parton, and may God bless you all. She will always love you.
Tea Party Bob joins us now at 580 KIDO.
Well, good morning, Mr. Miller. Great show today. Thank you so much. All I can say about Dolly is she was a real example of what you can do when you have the freedom that America offers. You know, coming up from the lowest economic level and much childhood hardship to be not only a star in the music world, but having 24 number one hits. But she was also a philanthropist, giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to help others. She lived the American dream, and we never hear enough about what America does offer us. And may God rest her soul. You know, I want to thank you for having Theo Wall back on the KIDO show again. You know, he always has some great insights into what is happening in our country and our state. And this conversation about the Chinese is right on target, but most Americans are so busy complaining about how bad things are in America, they forget that there has been an invasion taking place for several decades as the Chinese have influenced every sector of our economy. They continue to steal our technology with literally no ramifications, and our American companies appear to be willing to let them take it so they can have access to the Chinese markets. You know, China's goal is to become the world's preeminent power by 2049, the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic. And while there is no real imminent danger, they're not in a hurry, and they just continue to chip away with their prowess in EVs, solar panels, rare earth processing, and shipbuilding. And they are very fast closing the AI gap. But all is not lost. If you look carefully at the Chinese birth rate is collapsing, and their workforce is shrinking, their property sector is in crisis, and their local governments are in deep debt. So Trump's export controls have helped choke off their access to our most advanced semiconductors, and they have been using propaganda on us for some time through the liberal and social media, as we find out more every year. Their theft of our technology and intellectual property, counterfeiting and pirated software, costs the U.S. economy up to $600 billion a year, and they have used that stolen technology to bootstrap themselves to up the technology ladder, and are now becoming more innovative themselves with AIs and EVs, drones, and whatever else you can see them coming up with. You know, Trump's efforts to get off the China supply chain for pharmaceuticals, rare earth minerals are critical. And while China's purchase of U.S. farmland is still a small percentage, our concern is because some of the farmland is close in proximity to U.S. military bases. The Trump administration is now probing the influence of China on our colleges with all of the money they have donated to their endowments. And let's not forget the 65,000 Chinese nationals who crossed the border during Biden's open border policy, who are mostly military-age males. You know, on the latest coalition between China and Canada, there are serious intelligence and security concerns, as Canada is part of the Five Eyes intelligence program and has a huge border with us. And the Chinese invasion has already started with a reported 1,000 Chinese nationals coming across the border every month. So while the threat is not yet imminent, it is becoming more concerning for national security. And just a quick note, it's high time Zuckerberg got hit in the wallet for his algorithms that influence and are harmful to our children using his platforms. I only wish that it had cost him $1 trillion and put him out of business. I would say good riddance to bad rubbish. Let's not forget our politicians allowed him to build a new AI center to go without any restrictions on power or water. So thank you again for my time, Mr. Miller, and thank you for your great show. Without it, we would all be lost.
Well, we're lost without Dolly.
That is for sure, my friend. One of my favorites.
Yeah, she was always very friendly.
Well, she was a damn good singer, too. And she did a lot of her own songs. She wrote a lot of them. Truly an American treasure. And I'm sure we're going to be singing her songs for many decades to come.
Yeah, I could just imagine you singing 9 to 5.
Hey, don't think that I haven't been involved in a country and western band before, because I was for 2 years, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
What was the band's name? Hickey and Bicky?
I don't think that's any of your business.
Wait a minute. I heard, were you part of the Traveling Wilburys? That's what I heard. I heard it was Petty, you, Ray Orbison, and you were the guy, Ringo Starr, you were the guy that kept singing, "I'm so tired of being lonely."
You know, our band leader was a Marine staff sergeant. If he heard you say that, he'd probably come up and punch you right in the nose.
Well, that's not very nice.
Well, I know, but you weren't very nice talking about us.
That's not a denial. So you were in the Traveling Wilburys, huh? Not everybody could be a Wilbury.
I'm into blueberries, my friend. I like blueberries.
Well, Tea Party Bob, we love you. You take care.
Always fun talking to you, my friend. Have a great day.
Appreciate you. Tea Party Bob talking about China, Zuckerberg, and, of course, remembering Dolly.
Following a short battle with cancer, she was hands-on here, everything from building it, the experiences, the creativity. She made tons of appearances here. The world got the news about Parton's death yesterday afternoon. Tons of tributes have been pouring in around the world. Everyone from A-list celebrities, businesses, President Trump, and former presidents. They're, of course, mentioning her iconic music, her acting work, but what everyone is honing in on is how good of a person she was in her passion for philanthropy work. She helped millions of kids through her massive literacy program, Imagination Library.
And once again, remembering Dolly Parton, just again, Kevin Miller with you here. Would love to hear more from you at 580-5436-580 KIDO. If she were just a movie star, it was something I couldn't believe that 9 to 5 actually was in 1980, along with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, about well before the women's rights movement, well before anything else, talking about sticking it to your boss. That was 9 to 5. And then in 82, the best little horror house in Texas, she played Mona, the madam who presided over the Chicken Ranch. One of the more interesting, really, movies, Rhinestone. Do you remember Rhinestone in 1984? She played Sylvester Stallone. That's right, one of the most famous flops in movie history. She played Jake Ferris, a singer who tries to make a New York cabbie, Stallone, a country star. The iconic Steel Magnolias in 1989. Dolly Parton playing along with so many other stars, including the iconic Olympia Dukakis in Steel Magnolias, playing Truvy, the Louisiana hairdresser whose home serves as a gathering spot for the local women. Joyful Noise, she played Gigi Sparrow, a member of a local Georgia church group. When you think of Dolly Parton, a life defying expectations. And like I said, many of us get tired, many of us are this, but Dolly puts all of us to shame at 80, getting ready to go actually do a residency in Vegas. The Wall Street Journal writes, underestimated initially as a country singer, TV personality, and actress, Dolly Parton, who died Tuesday at age 80, defied expectations throughout her 7-decade career. From the late 1960s onward, she took a special delight in winning over audiences with a playful personality, a folksy naturalism, and an eager singing voice. On stage, she gracefully offset the blonde bombshell image she both cultivated and poked fun at. Thanks to her Appalachian accent, irrepressible talent, and quick wit, she seemed to live on national television in the 1970s and quickly became country's biggest-selling and most beloved superstars. Hiding behind the colorful Southern archetype she was described as overdone, was a Renaissance woman. 25 singles reached number one, a female record, 49 career top 10 country albums, 113 chart country singles. Her 49th solo album, Rockstar, just 3 years ago in 2023, was her highest charting Billboard 200 album, peaking at number 3. She won 10 career Grammy Awards and received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2011. And then going on and on, talking about all these things was just simply amazing when we're thinking about this. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I go back to this issue of just dealing with this and the loss of Dolly and where we are today. It is simply amazing to think of the talent, the energy, the enthusiasm, and all the people that she has left behind. We will miss Dolly.
Known for her songwriting, unique fashion, and over-the-top personality, Dolly Parton was not only a music icon, but a trailblazer. Born on January 19, 1946 in Pittman Center, Tennessee, to Robert Lee Parton and Avie Lee Owens. Parton was the fourth of 12 kids. She grew up in a one-room cabin out in the Smoky Mountains. Early love for music led her to begin writing songs in grade school, and she made her first appearance on the Grand Ole Opry in 1959 at only 13 years old. The day after she graduated from high school, Parton packed her bags and moved to Nashville to start chasing her musical dreams. She soon married her husband, Carl Dean, in 1966. They remained together for nearly 59 years until he died in 2025. Parton's first shot at stardom came when she joined the Porter Wagoner Show in 1967.
I was lucky that I got a chance to be that exposed to that many people at one time, and that was really what kind of shot me up there and got me a good grip.
While on the show, Parton decided to pursue her career as a solo artist, and in 1971 debuted her first #1 solo hit, Joshua, followed by other chart toppers like Love is Like a Butterfly, I Will Always Love You, and the legendary Jolene.
Jolene, 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 Jolene. I don't know how you're doing on the inside, honey, but your hair's just holding up beautiful.
Parton was introduced to a new audience while acting in films including Steel Magnolias and 9 to 5. Over the decades, she earned many honors and accolades, including her induction into the Grand Ole Opry in 1969 and the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1999. Also awarded the Library of Congress Living Legend Medal in 2004. And in a Nashville theater in 2025, she debuted Dolly, a true original musical based on her life. Parton was known for her business and humanitarian work. Her theme park in Tennessee, Dollywood, opened in 1986, and her charity Imagination Library provides over 1 million free books to kids every single month. Parton even developed a museum dedicated to her life inside a Dolly-inspired hotel in Nashville. With more than 60 albums and over 24 #1 hits, Dolly Parton lived her life not straying far from her roots and always keeping a positive outlook on life and her career.
And I can look back on a lot of things that's happening. I think, oh, thank you, God. At least my life seems to have made a difference and to have meant something to a lot of people.
Alexis McAdams, Fox News.
Yeah. Making a difference. Very different from the world we live in today, right? The world that we live in today is just amazing that we could have somebody like Dolly Parton. We'll take more of your calls on Dolly at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We also have people that are proudly talking about the Democrats taking over. Hakeem Jeffries being interviewed that, I mean, the election hasn't even happened, and he's mad because he's being asked legitimate questions concerning the people now associated with the new Democratic Party. Hassan Piker, Al Sayed, the Democratic Socialist. They're not just coming for the Republicans. They're coming for everyone.
On another important issue, Leader Jeffries, you issued a statement yesterday slamming what you called the malicious claim that American Jews are inviting violence against themselves as, quote, dangerous and anti-Semitic. Was that in reference to far-left influencer Hassan Piker and his recent very controversial comments?
Yes, those comments were dangerous, malicious, and anti-Semitic, and should not be tolerated by anyone in the public square. What we've seen is a startling rise of hate crimes.
Right, but on the other hand, this guy is the guy behind Syed in Michigan. This is the guy that's behind a lot of these folks. He's sitting there doing, calling the shots, which is just simply amazing when you're thinking about this. Here you have, Hakeem Jeffries basically trying to say, oh, yes, I denounce this. I denounce it. Well, are you going to announce the candidate? Are you going to denounce the candidate who, in fact, is being fueled by this? I do believe that the leader does have a problem with this, has a major problem, and we'll see if he plays out with this here at 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
All across the United States of America, but particularly in this moment, directed against our Jewish brothers and sisters. And everybody, regardless of ideological perspective, should be willing to denounce this rise of anti-Semitic rhetoric, hate crimes, and bigotry, and actually try to move us to a society where we embrace everyone. Even where there are differences, on issues, be they foreign or domestic, the notion that people should be targeted because of their religious beliefs or ethnicity or race, whatever the case may be, that's fundamentally inconsistent with who we are in this country.
Yes, indeed. Hassan Piker's clout among Democrats, though, particularly some younger Democratic voters, seems to be growing. We saw, for example, his prominence in the Michigan Senate Democratic primary. So why not call him out by name in your statement if you feel so passionately about this issue?
I've just addressed Hassan Piker's comments as it relates to the Jewish community as forcefully as I can, and I will continue to do that.
Yes, but in your original statement, he was not addressed by name. That's why I was raising the question. Leader Jeffries, you want to give me a final thought before I let you go? And we're grateful to you for joining us.
Yeah, in other words, I'm going to apologize for asking another final question, and then I'd ask you to answer that again. Why are you afraid of this guy, Hakeem Jeffries?
Well, there are 70 days until the midterm elections, and we're either going to move the country forward or we're going to turn back the clock. And Donald Trump's administration has been a disaster for the American people. That is clear. And we have an opportunity to take back control of the House and the United States Senate so we can begin the process of ending this national nightmare. And look, our commitment as Democrats is...
Yeah, your commitment as Democrats is, well, we're not woke anymore. We're not this, we're not that. But make no point about it, they're coming for everyone.
This is one of the reasons Democrats winning across the country in November is so urgent. If we take the House and we take the Senate, we can impeach and remove RFK Jr. And if we don't, he's going to have 2 more years of unfettered access to America's public health infrastructure. And that will be disastrous.
Yes, he's going to do that, have access to just about everyone, right? Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. It's time for the president to rally the troops, time for the president to get rolling on this, time for really the president to make it happen. And obviously rallying the base, great news out of South Carolina, great news out of Oklahoma. And once again, when you go after people and you do these things, the bottom line is they're going to hit back. And they're going to hit back again and again and again and again. And as I said before, I look at this thing, and this is going to be very, very challenging for the administration. As I said before, it is crazy when you're thinking about this. The idea that we could have the Democrats taking over the House and the Senate, and it is no fun being in the minority. And let your heart not be fooled by these people. Affordability, tell me, who has the answer to making things more affordable? I'd really like to know. Is it getting out of the Iranian situation? Well, tell me, besides totally annihilating that place and making it even worse, how we're going to get out of the Iranian war. Now we're going to give them the economic D-Day, and we're going to lobby people we may like, we may not like, we may do this, we may do that, to sit back and do these things. So to say to Russia, to China, when they think that they have us on the ropes, this is crazy. This is nuts. This is absurd. This is wild. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I sit back and I say to myself, how is this going to make it better? And basically, they just sit there and tell us, well, it's going to be great. We're going to do this. The Democratic Party is attacking itself based on the Democratic Socialists that want to eliminate the Supreme Court, eliminate the presidency, eliminate borders, eliminate the police, eliminate everything. So tell me, what type of country is that? It's not America. It's not Venezuela. I really don't know what it is. Do you? And that's why we're always talking about the right path, the right way, the right move. So we'll continue to fight with Clay and Buck, and of course, Sean and Lars and everybody else. Do appreciate the KIDO All-Star lineup. And of course, no bigger All-Star than you. Make sure you check out our podcast, available everywhere, including on the YouTube, and some great stories available on our website. Ada County declaring war on mice and rats. That's right, the issue of rats in Ada County. Big one. This time, they mean business, and the rats are going to have to answer to the mayors of every Ada County city. They're actually going to have a meeting. Now, there's no public comment, but I believe either the mayors or the representatives of these cities will, in fact, be there to talk about the rat problem, the growing rat problem. So you can read about that story. If you have a rat problem that began in Eagle and now has moved throughout the Treasure Valley, you can read the details on how you can hear what's going on through our friends with the Ada County Commissioners. Good day. God bless. And remember, keep the faith, and Kevin Miller loves you.